My 66M wife, 61F, is taking care of her aunt 86F, and it is killing our marriage. My daughter uses Reddit and is helping me type this today. I am at loss in what to do in this situation. My wife's aunt became a widow 2 years ago. She came to live with us because she was afraid of staying alone. Since we had extra rooms and that she was perfectly healthy and fine, we decided it was okay to let her stay with us. Over time, she grew more and more attached to my wife. She wouldn't want her to go to work because she'd miss her. She didn't want her to go shopping because it was always too long. She would follow her to parties and events, even if she didn't want to go because she didn't want to be without her. I told my wife that it was becoming unhealthy, and that her aunt should talk more to her friends and try to meet with them. She has a couple friends around her age. My wife always told me that I was exaggerating and that there was nothing wrong. Recently, 6 months ago or so, the aunt caught a bronchitis and then another viral infection and some type of spine pain. She became very dependent on us to move her. That's when things started going really bad. She required my wife's attention almost 24/7 and would cry when my wife wasn't around. She wanted my wife to sleep next to her, feed her, talk to her constantly, not go out, not go to work, etc. After a week, I complained to my wife about not spending any time with her, and that her aunt was taking all of her. My wife dismissed my worries and told me that she would get better soon. After 2 months of her aunt acting like a baby and constantly complaining about pain, I suggested we go consult. The doctor said she was perfectly fine, nothing wrong. We had trouble believing it, so we consulted different specialists. And they ultimately said that if she keeps up her good health, she could live another 10-15 years. We met with a psychologist, and he said that the aunt needs more tests to determine what she has, but that my wife and I clearly need to focus on us, and not her aunt affect our marriage. Since I am retired, I told my wife that we should finally go take the vacations we always wanted. I booked tickets to go on a cruise around Alaska. I even planned everything and asked my daughter, 35F, to take care of her aunt. A week before going, I couldn't keep the secret anymore and told my wife what I had done. My wife was clearly happy and amazed. I finally thought we could have some alone good time. When she let her aunt know later that night, it was a major catastrophe. The aunt cried, threw tantrums, called all her friends to let her know how awful we were to leave her alone. She even threw herself on the ground. I told my wife it was time to put her in a home for elders and that she couldn't stay with us anymore. My wife refused. She said she wasn't going to abandon her and that it's hard to be old. She also canceled our vacations and said she's sure I'd understand. It hurt me, a lot. I did end up going with my daughter instead, and we had a great time. But that's besides the point. Now, we are selling our house. It's too big for us. The aunt has a say in all this. She requires a room with specific details such as dimensions, views, number of stairs to come into the house, etc. My wife is actually listening to her, and it is making me more and more unhappy. I retired to spend time with her, our kids and our grandkids, but it feels like she's only spending time with her aunt. We are in couple counseling. It is not helping us. I have been married to her for almost 45 years. I don't want to give her an ultimatum as she is the love of my life, and I certainly don't ever want to be without her. I just want to spend quality time with her, TLDR. My wife's aunt is living with us. She grew attached to my wife and doesn't want to let her go anywhere, including on vacation with me. My wife sides with her. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Is your wife willing to ruin your retirement and marriage for her aunt? You need to issue the ultimatum, as this isn't fair to you or her. Would getting professional care to look after her in your home be an option instead of sending her to a nursing home? Reply. We found this lovely lady who would come and take care of the aunt a couple hours a day. She speaks the same language and has over 25 years of experience. My wife refused, saying she is a stranger, and that if we need to pay someone, then we should do it ourselves and keep the money. Commenter 2. I would just start taking the trips without her. Maybe she'll notice. Reply. I took that trip without her. It was her dream trip. She did say that she wished she could have gone, but that was it. I think she feels like her aunt is her duty. Kind of like when you have children. Commenter 3. Is your wife of another ethnic or cultural background? Sometimes that plays into the situation. And if her family, speaking the non-local language, is used to relying upon one another, going to an outsider might seem even more difficult, no matter how qualified and caring. I'm in my 30s, and my husband and I are caring for my aged, widowed father in conjunction with all of my 4 siblings and paid caretakers. By switching off days and weekends, it's really hard stuff, and very frustrating. You don't mention where you're from, though, since you mentioned cruising Alaska. I'm guessing you're in North America. But in the States, if someone is still competent to make their own decisions, i.e., doesn't have dementia, you can't put them in care against their will. It complicates things. You've been married to your wife for a very long time, so I would reach out to her and tell her that you want to make this situation as easy as possible for her. For the aunt, and for you. Find out the elder care laws. Find out what the requirements are to keep the aunt in her own home or yours. There are charitable groups that will do regular visits or agencies to offer respite care. There are adult daycare centers. I don't know what the compromise is here. My husband and I don't either. Reply, you're right. My wife used to take care of her mom who took care of her mom. It seems to be very cultural. The aunt has been living in America for 50 years, but never did any effort to learn English. She only speaks her native language, which really complicates things. Update. Something completely magical happened. My wife and I were looking at a house we both actually love. It has every single thing we waned in our retirement home, and it's close to everything that we need. We were thrilled, and when she told her aunt and showed her the pictures of the house, her aunt laughed and said, "You can't buy that. It has stairs. I can't go up and down the stairs." Something clicked in my wife's mind. She simply said to her aunt, "It's the house that my husband and I like, and the fact that it has some stairs that you are healthy enough to go up and down on won't stop us." Her aunt cried and cried. We called our new therapist, which suggested that we treat her like a child. Check on her every 15 minutes, but not give in. We did that, and she got over it by the next morning. My wife also got more tough love with her aunt. And whenever she'll complain about stuff my wife knows are unreal, my wife dismisses it politely. Things aren't 100% perfect. The new therapist helped my wife a lot. She mainly focused on her and why my wife was feeling the almost nurturing need to be there for her aunt. Thank you for the advice. Changing therapists was a great idea. I don't know if I have had the courage to just follow through without you, but I did the very next day. TLDR. Changed therapist. Wife realized a lot of things about herself and is now less worried about her aunt and more focused on us. Stories number 2. Aita for telling my dad he'll ruin our relationship if he puts his wife before what's best for me and my brother. I 16 have a brother 18, and our parents have been divorced for like 12 years. My parents always got along really well after the divorce. They threw us birthday parties together, celebrated Christmas together, and would talk about us and keep things good. My brother has medical issues, and they would be in the same room with him when he was sick or had a doctor's appointment. They also weren't those divorced parents who needed to schedule different times to speak to teachers. We were told we were most important to them, and they never wanted us to feel caught in the middle. Overall, though, my parents didn't spend a lot of time together, but they could spend time together and did when it was for us. I liked how they did that because it was nice to celebrate stuff with my whole family, and my brother loved that he didn't have to pick which parent came to see him when he was in the hospital. When I was 11, my dad got married again. His wife and us didn't get on super well, but not super bad either. She was included in the stuff with our parents like birthday parties, Christmas and stuff. She was never very nice to Mom though, and now me and my brother found out she doesn't approve of Dad and Mom talking or being in the same room. She doesn't like joint Christmas celebrations or birthday parties. She thinks everything could be separate, and my dad's actually thinking of doing it. They told me and my brother a couple of weeks ago. My brother stormed out and told Dad he wasn't dealing with that bullshit. Dad told me he knew it would be an adjustment, but it was for his wife. I asked him why she mattered more than us. He said she doesn't, but it's different because we're older now. So I was like, I have to have 2 weddings, 2 birthdays, 2 baby showers, and everything else in the future. His wife said yes, and Dad said that's not what she's asking. They spoke at the same time, so Dad changed what he said, and he told me we'd talk about it more. I asked about my brother being in the hospital, and she said he's an adult now, so it's not like Mom or Dad even need to be there. My dad said to let things be figured out more first. I told him why bother, and he should know if he does this. If he puts her before us, then he'll ruin our relationship. The rest of the week at my dad's house was weird. My mom knows about it, and I told her I don't want to go to Dad's house if he's going to do this. She told me I'd have to go until a judge says otherwise, but he did speak to her lawyer and filed in court to see if we can't let it be my choice. My dad's wife is angry at me and my brother for not accepting this, and she told me I put my dad in a bad position to lose one of us. Dad keeps saying we need to talk about this more, but I feel like he just wants me and my brother to accept what his wife wants. Commenter 1, and she told me I put my dad in a bad position to lose one of us. The one wanting to change things is responsible for the consequences. Commenter 2, So I was like, I have to have 2 weddings, 2 birthdays, 2 baby showers, and everything else in the future. His wife said yes, I'd just uninvite her from all future events. He can either be at you and your brother's events with your mum and have a relationship with you, or he can fuck off. Throw an ultimatum his way and watch him squirm. Coward putting his dick before his own children. Commenter 3 NTA. If his wife is so insecure that she can't deal with her husband being around his ex, then she shouldn't have married him. She knew what the situation was when they got together. She had plenty of time to walk away if she wasn't happy with the dynamics. I think you and your brother should try talking to Dad again. Without her present, reiterate to him that neither of you are happy with this. If she doesn't want to be around your mom anymore, that is absolutely fine. She can miss all of the events and special occasions, but you aren't having to. So he can either choose to show up and be in his kids' lives or not. But make sure he understands that if he doesn't, he shouldn't act surprised in a few years when he doesn't see or hear from either of you anymore. Reply, we can try talking to him alone about this, but I wonder if that'll be allowed or if she'll be included regardless. Maybe she doesn't like the idea of him being around us without her either. Commenter 4. NTA, I'm 49 and have been hospitalized 23 times in the last 13 years. My parents still come to the hospital to visit me. Her whole request is wild. She is the one who put your dad in a bad spot. His kids should still remain the most important to him. That's just how it's supposed to be. Her insecurities and jealousy should not be your problem. Commenter 5, NTA, your dad is. He has been a good parent. He knows how to do the job. And now he's choosing to be a bad parent, and that makes him the AH. You are just being honest. She seriously said that he doesn't need his parents when he is in the hospital? And he sat there and let her? Reply, she acts like my brother being 18 now makes it okay for our parents to just not be there for him. My dad didn't tell her that would never happen. He just kept trying to make this a we need to talk more thing. But how can we talk more about this if we're going to be expected to accept this crap? Stories number 3, Aita for blowing up at my friend who constantly makes comments about my boobs. I have big boobs. I'm currently at 52 kilo, and there's nothing I can do to change the size of these things, unless I have surgery. I'm also extremely shy and from a very conservative family, so my resentment and shame towards my bust is an ongoing issue. My friend Sarah is one of those unfiltered free thinkers who says whatever is on her mind. She's also slim and her chest is very much in proportion to the rest of her body. We work together, and I'm always secretly jealous of how great shirts and tops look on her. Whereas I feel I look very sloppy and unprofessional with oversized, ill-fitting clothes, Sarah has this way of always bringing up my boobs in conversation. Starting off complimentary but often ending with a subtle insult. She knows they're a physical feature I'm uncomfortable with, but doesn't let up. Examples of things she'll say is how my boobs look good now, but give it a few years, and they'll be down to my knees. Ha ha ha. Or she'll show me comments on Reddit, where people are discussing chest size preferences, and most are commenting how they much prefer a smaller bust over large, or just a general reminder of how work or men will never take me seriously because of my cartoon boobs. I know she's trying to have lighthearted fun, but it gets to me, and I've told her a few times to drop it before. Now we're working from home, we all have daily video calls and meetings. Uniform is not necessary and can wear what we like. A few days ago, it was extremely hot, and I was wearing a lighter, more revealing top than my usual baggy cover-ups. During this video call, in front of 6 other colleagues, Sarah starts vocalizing her thoughts on my appearance. Holy shit, put those away, you look like you're in a porno. We don't need to see that first thing in the morning. Ha ha ha, I was mortified. One other colleague laughed along, but the rest looked uncomfortable. I felt close to tears, made an excuse, and left the meeting. Sarah called me up half an hour later, asking me what was wrong, and I went off on her. Told her to go fuck herself and was sick of her constant jabs about my appearance. I went on a 10-minute tirade and hung up. Sarah has been off sick since that day, and we haven't spoken again. I'm wondering if I was too harsh, and maybe should call and apologize for my outburst. Was I TA? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 info. Have you been clear before about how you feel about her comments? Reply, yes, several times. I had even opened up to her a few years back about my personal insecurities stemming mainly from my family making me feel ashamed of them. Sarah is fully aware that it's a sensitive issue. Commenter 2, absolutely NTA on a work call? That's workplace sexual harassment. If it ever happens again, contact HR. Commenter 3, no need to wait for it to happen again. OP. You could and probably should report this to HR right now. Commenter 4, NTA. As a fellow large-busted lady, they are not in proportion to my body type and size. Comments make me uncomfortable too. She's probably making jabs because she's jealous and insecure, but that doesn't excuse her behavior. You told her to stop and she didn't, and then made everyone else uncomfortable with her comments as well. She didn't listen the first time, so she deserved the 10-minute lecture. Commenter 5, this is exactly what's going on. She's fixated on OP's boobs because she's jealous of her size. Commenter 6, NTA, this is sexual harassment. Commenter 7, NTA, you should go to management.hr if this ever happens again because it's straight up sexual harassment. Also, I don't even know you, but I'm incredibly angry at all the people who make you feel shitty about your body. Your boobies and the rest of you are beautiful and valuable and deserve no hate whatsoever. I wish you well on your journey to self-acceptance. Commenter 7, NTA. Just because you're the same sex doesn't mean she can't sexually harass you. Edit 1, I'm fuming. I just spoke with a colleague, John, who was part of the video call that day, and he told me that Sarah's been telling everyone that it's me that's been bullying her and making her feel insecure about her appearance. When she made those comments during the meeting, it was in retaliation to how I've made her feel, apparently. I said she looks like a boy, and called her flat-chested and ugly several times in the past. I have never and would never say this. I don't even understand the stupid boy body insult because a small bust has always looked very beautiful and classy in my eyes. Anyway, John knows she's full of shit and has suggested we speak with HR. The others will also back me up. I know most people here suggested I do this and I wasn't sure at first, but fuck it. I'm reporting her. I don't know why I ever considered her a friend. She's fucking mental and annoying. Edit 2. I now feel stupid for even asking the question, Aita. I thought I may have been at one point because the video call was amongst mostly workmates rather than clients, and I wasn't sure if my sensitivity towards my body image made me overreact to a joke. That could have been innocent. I now realize it wasn't. I've also spoken to another co-worker who is closer to Sarah, and she thinks Sarah may have already reported me to HR. She said the phone conversation we had after the meeting was filled with abusive bullying language and physical threats. It wasn't a pleasant phone call. But the worst thing I said was she go fuck herself, and that I don't want to speak to her again. The rest of the conversation was just rehashing all the comments she made about my body, and how it made me feel. She also claimed that I have been making inappropriate jokes about her appearance and work ethic through the years, and this confrontation was a long time coming. She also suggested that I've convinced the guys in the office to take my side by being a flirt and a tease. Did I mention that I'm stupidly shy? My head is swimming, and I think I may be dealing with an actual psycho. I don't know how it's come to this ridiculous level of craziness. All I wanted to do was get on with my fucking work in peace and get through this crappy time, but now I have to deal with this bullshit. Update, just to answer a few questions I've seen. I've contacted HR with my complaint. I have a lot of old text messages and emails with comments and memes Sarah has sent making fun of my chest size. John and other colleagues are fully supporting me as well as my manager. It will take a while for them to get back to me, but I'm confident that things will be sorted, and Sarah will be dealt with. My breasts alone aren't 52 kilo to 114 lbs, my overall weight is 52 kilo. I mention this because my chest seems much larger on my small frame, making clothes that others wear and look nice in look completely gaudy and cheap on me. I can't lose any more weight to make a difference on my bust size. I won't get surgery, but I have been working on my body image issues, which my shyness and upbringing did a number on. People's comments don't usually devastate me as they once did, but Sarah obviously tried her best to break me down. Thank you to all for clothing suggestions. I will definitely look into tailoring some tops and have spent some time checking out Bravissimo, which looks great. In hindsight, I should have confronted Sarah more sternly in the past, but I guess I was trying to avoid conflict. Others have suggested I may have allowed her to gaslight me, which may be true. I just want to move on at this point. Update 2. The co-worker Lucy, who keeps in contact with Sarah and told me earlier that Sarah may have reported me to HR, has just phoned to tell me that Sarah has suffered a serious panic attack. Lucy does not want to take sides but has suggested I reconsider taking drastic action. Sarah is too unwell to talk to me herself, but has asked I drop my complaint and she will drop hers. Citing the whole thing as a misunderstanding and stress-induced disagreement. I have had panic attacks before in my life, and I seriously felt like I was going to die. It's a horrible feeling, and if Sarah has honestly just had one herself, I don't want to push her too far. I still want to address her comments over the video call, but I'm wondering if I should just drop the other complaints. Sarah has asked to move teams so we don't directly work with one another, but it doesn't seem she wants to apologize yet. And just to clarify to people who assume I was wearing a bikini top or boob tube during the meeting, I wasn't. It was a short-sleeved plain t-shirt which hugged my breasts more than my usual baggy tops. I don't like to hold grudges, and I think getting her fired during a time like this may be a shitty thing to do. I feel she has already punished herself by displaying this fucked up behavior to others, and losing a lot of respect from coworkers. If we don't ever have to interact with one another, I'm up for that. I have a suspicion that Sarah may have found this post and read it, which I thought I would feel bad about, but I really don't care. Last update, I'm not dropping any of the complaints. Sarah, fuck you, Michelle and I have spoken. And although it started off promising, she is mentally unhinged and without a conscience. I did not realize how deep her hatred runs. Not only did she mock all those things I had told her in confidence about the way my family treated me growing up, she accused me of fucking every guy from work to get ahead. Now I know where some of those fake office rumors about me came from. I've been such a naive idiot and allowed my shyness and aversion to conflict to stop me from fighting people who manipulate and walk all over me. I don't need this misery in my life. If she's reading this, get professional help immediately. I know you desperately fancy John and, as you said, despise the way he looks at me. I know it bothers you that he took my side and has been a great support. Maybe I will go for drinks with him when lockdown ends. If I don't make any new updates, just assume that the right person was reprimanded and faced the consequences of their words and actions. Update: Ada for blowing up at my friend who constantly makes comments about my boobs. I took into account the advice offered and I thank you guys for your help. HR meeting call with supervisor went well. The main incident in my original post wasn't recorded, but all 6 colleagues wrote a statement confirming what Sarah had said and how inappropriate it was. I didn't realize, but John had also asked others who work with us if they, at any point, heard Sarah attack my character or physical appearance in a cruel or improper manner, and if they did, would they be willing to write a statement. Apparently, she has been saying quite a few outrageous things behind my back, and it seems that a lot of the hurtful office gossip about me did originate from her. I submitted a few examples of messages and emails sent by Sarah during work hours, taking jokes about my appearance too far. I also included the messages where I asked her to stop causing attention at work, as I'm extremely uncomfortable with others regarding me in that way. Her claims of my bullying her and calling her flat-chested and ugly at work were dismissed as she couldn't specify dates or find anyone to corroborate her story or even provide any examples of me ever being hostile or unprofessional. The phone call we had after the video team meeting where she claims I used threatening language against her was also disregarded as no recording was made and it was her word against mine. Luckily, I don't think they believed her on this point, as I've never displayed anything near the type of aggressive behavior she was accusing me of, and my character references had me down as the quiet sort who gets on with work. While things were being reviewed, Sarah decided to quit. She's still adamant that I bullied and threatened her and felt no choice but to leave the toxic environment I created. I've been reassured that there was no wrongdoing on my part, except that I should have reported things much sooner when inappropriate comments first started. From what I gather, Sarah's general behavior at work has raised concerns for a while, and I wasn't the first to complain about her. Some people were confused as to why I had considered her a friend in the beginning, when I joined the team 3 years ago. It was my first job out of uni, and I was incredibly nervous, but Sarah was the first to ask me questions and offer to hang out. She was a bit overbearing and rambunctious, but I appreciated her efforts to get to know me and coax me out of my shell. We often did have a good laugh, despite her sometimes making a joke at my expense, but I tried not to take it to heart, and occasionally reminded her to wind it in and be more considerate of my feelings. It's only been during the past 8 or so months where she's become especially rude and callous. I still referred to her as a friend of sorts, but I never thought she would take things as far as she did. Edit, thanks to everyone for the kind words, advice and encouragement. It's really blown me away. I stepped away to talk to John for a while, and let him know what a great guy a lot of people think he is. His little smile was adorable, despite the misery at work I had to go through for a while. Everything has turned out pretty amazing. I do love my job now that I can actually get on with it without the office drama. Finding out how my other coworkers feel about me has been incredibly reassuring, and we've now set up a weekly virtual pub night. My outlook has improved massively, and I'm taking steps to manage my anxieties and put aside past negativity. Relevant comments commenté 1. Wow. So happy that things worked out for you. Sarah will learn her lesson as she moves on, and understands others won't take her poop. Good on you for standing up for yourself. You deserve a good hug and a pat on the back, and these, of course, reply thanks. I don't feel like I did much as Sarah seemed to dig her own hole, but the support on this sub has been wonderful, I must admit. Commenter 2. I wanted to comment on your first post, but by the time I read it there were already hundreds of comments, and I figured it would just be lost in the noise. You mentioned how hard it was to look good in clothes that are modest. I can appreciate that. My wife was very large-chested but had the surgery. I don't know, I wouldn't recommend it. It was a pretty major surgery and she seemed to suffer quite a bit. I've never asked her, what is the point? It's downstream. She might disagree with me. Anyway, I wanted to suggest a clothing style a coworker figured out. She was very large-chested too, but also very slim. She was a modest and classy lady, so the conundrum is obvious. Wear clothes that fit your waist, which will draw a lot of attention to your chest. Or wear clothes that fit your chest and look disheveled, etc. So what she did was wear tight-fitting shirts, but also always had a shawl or pashmina or light sweater, etc. She looked clean, crisp, well-dressed, but also modest and classy. Just throwing it out there, reply. I'm slowly trying to update my wardrobe with better-fitting clothes that don't completely hide my figure. Maybe some layering like you said to help me feel less exposed. Problem is, I still hear my parents' voices telling me I look like a whore, but I'm working on drowning out those voices. It's crazy how hard it is to shake off these comments from childhood. Commenter 3, did you get drinks with John like you said you would? Good on you for standing up for yourself. Reply. Things are actually getting quite interesting between John and I. I know in my last update of the original post, my dig at Sarah was childish and petty. I would never use him just to make someone jealous. I've always avoided workplace flirting, romance, because it's awkward as hell, but I've definitely admired John from a distance as he's very easy on the eyes. And the Irish charm is breaking down my barriers rather quickly. His support throughout has been incredible, and I'm really lucky to have him fighting my corner. Tensions are obviously building, and we're looking forward to the day we can meet up for drinks. Commenter 4. Okay, we need to ask this. Did John join the company only the past 1 year or so? Is this why she's being more horrid at your expense? Reply, he joined in March 2019. I did sense her frustrations with garnering his attention, and I made a point to keep my interactions with him very brief and formal. I'm sure her feelings for him played a part in her increasingly malicious attitude, but I think she had a whole load of other issues going on as well. Stories number 4, Aita for leaving my family to fend for themselves. I 20 members am the middle child in a family that honestly feels like a case study for what family therapy tries to prevent. My mom's an alcoholic with serious psychological issues and a bit of an Oedipus complex that even Freud would throw his hands up at. My older brother, 28, who is a bit of an addict, dropped out of college years ago and survives off debts and favors that usually I end up paying for. My teen sister can't even make her own breakfast. And my 12-year-old brother, who's autistic, is probably the most emotionally mature person in the house. Well, I'll be brief. Basically, I've been taking care of everyone for as long as I can remember. I don't want to sound like a victim, but it's the truth. When I was a teenager, I spent countless nights picking up my mother from work events where she would get drunk until she passed out, urinate on herself, and start yelling at her coworkers. My older brother constantly asked me for money to pay off his debts from buying marijuana, and my sister always came to me crying after another fight with my mother, or whenever she needed money for some emergency that turned out to be movie tickets. A few weeks ago, I received the best news of my life. I was accepted into a scholarship and internship program in London. It was an incredible opportunity because it was something I had worked hard for while studying and working 2 jobs. I cried. I'm not even ashamed of it for once. I felt that all the sacrifices and sleepless nights had been worth it. That night I told my family, foolishly expecting them to be proud of me. They weren't. My mother basically asked me who would help her pay the bills when I left. Then she started yelling across the dining room. My older brother told me it must be easy for me to run off to Europe while leaving them to sink into the shit. And my sister accused me of abandoning her, saying I had promised her I would always be there for her, and then brought up the mistakes I made when I was 16. Even my little brother called me an idiot, although I'm pretty sure he was just repeating what he had heard others say. They all called me selfish. When I'm still the invisible pillar of this family, I don't earn much, but everything I have ends up in their hands somehow. I never thought about abandoning them or cutting off contact, but their reaction left me dismayed. I've been selling my things, saving every penny, organizing my paperwork, and preparing to leave at the end of the year. None of them talk to me anymore. And honestly, this time I'm not going to apologize for taking a chance or thinking about what they want. But I can't help thinking about how much my family will fall apart if I leave, even though I'm not even thinking about leaving for good. They don't even talk to me and they spend their time talking shit about me. Honestly, the one I'm most worried about is my younger brother. It's not his fault. Commenter 1. Honey, run, don't walk to the nearest exit. When you are done with your stint in London, get employment at least one or more states away. If you feel guilty, send $100 now and then. Maybe go back at Christmas if you feel the need but you have paid your dues. Commenter 2 NTA, go and enjoy your life. You're not responsible for your mother or your siblings. Lock down everything you have and need going forward. Get your documents in a safe place. Your birth certificate, social security card and passport. Don't leave them where they can disappear or get destroyed or lost. Get a new bank account at a new bank, especially if any of them bank at the same bank, and if any of them have ever been or are currently attached to your accounts. Change your passwords to something they won't figure out. Protect yourself. Lock down your credit information and SSN. Google how to do this. Your mother has your SSN and can use it when she wants to. Anything you cherish around the house needs to be someplace safe. You may need to get a small storage area so you can protect your stuff. I'm sorry to say, but your relatives all sound like people who will do what they can to keep you where they want you. Research the crab pot mentality to get an understanding of this dynamic. They don't want you to succeed, as it will show them that they could have if they tried. You may want to look into Al-Anon, which is for relatives and loved ones of addicts. They have good resources. Commenter 3. NTA, I was in a similar situation. Alcoholic mother, addict sister. Best choice I ever made was leaving them behind to go to college. Worst choice I ever made was letting them back in and paying for support and rehab. Second best choice I ever made was cutting them off again. Commenter 4. You are so NTA, it's not even a question. You've been prettified and it's abuse, info, no father in the picture. Is there any relative that could check on younger brother? Or maybe a trusted neighbor or teacher? You worked hard and you deserve your success. Go enjoy London. Also, your older brother needs to grow up. Reply, thank you for the comment. I'm a little nervous about London. I have been told many times that I have been parentified, but I didn't see it as too big of a problem until this situation. And no, my dad left home when I was about 2 years old. My younger sister and brother are childs of the man who was my stepfather for a while, who, by the way, kicked me out of the house when I was 16, but in the end, he also ended up leaving my mom because of his addictions and those of my older brother. I know a trusted teacher who could check on my younger brother from time to time, since all the neighbors hate us for obvious reasons. Commenter 4 reply, also, some others have given excellent advice to lock down your credit. SSN, bank account, important documents, etc. Protect yourself. Stories number 5. Owner's not back and not answering. Hey guys, have any of you guys ever had a client who just didn't come back? I've been house sitting for over a week as the owners went away on holiday overseas. No issues whatsoever. But last night they were due to come back around 7 p.m. but they just didn't. I checked our local airport for arrivals, and the next flight for the country they went to was due at 2 a.m., so I was like, well, it's 11 p.m. now, the dogs are asleep, it'll be fine. So I left. Woke up extra early at 4 a.m. to see if they responded to my message, but no response. I decided to drive over just to see if their car was in the driveway, but nothing. I let myself in again and fed the dogs. I checked our airport arrivals again, and the next flight isn't due until 8 p.m. tonight. And the one after that is in 3 days. I live over an hour from this house sit, and I'm absolutely burning through petrol going back and forth. But if I don't, these dogs aren't getting let out or fed. I've tried texting, calling, emailing, and I even asked the neighbors if they had an alternate number, but nothing. I definitely didn't plan for this, and I feel terrible having to leave these dogs alone for 6 hours at a time. I can't even text their parents because they also went on holiday with them. Comments. Oh yeah, I've been visiting the dogs and making sure they're being fed, watered, walked, etc. Don't worry. I've reached out to the neighbors and the parents' contact, but the neighbors had all the same numbers, and the parents aren't responding either. Thankfully, they're the best behaved dogs on the planet, and they've been very good throughout this whole thing. I considered taking them to my parents, but we have cats, and unfortunately, these dogs are small, fluffy thing hunters. To find their employer and ask them for emergency contacts. They're both self-employed. I'm thinking that maybe they wrote the wrong date, because the place they're going crosses the international date line. It's only a 3-hour flight, so it can be a bit jarring. But still, I don't care why they haven't responded when they've been pretty on to responding until now. That's the thing. I got their flight number off their calendar and they just completely missed it. It's on pause shake and that was my next thing to try. All the emergency contacts they gave me either went on holiday with them or I've already tried. The place they went is really small and there's been no news of any accidents or anything either. To call the police. Yeah, I have at this point. But they said to just chill out and wait. Which wasn't very helpful. Update. Hey all, just wanted to update you guys about the situation. They pitched up eventually 36 hours after they said they would be back. And the story was that they wanted an extra day on holiday, and were too worried I would say no to house sitting an extra day. Like that's the reason they didn't text or call back. They got every message and chose to ignore it. They said thanks for looking after their dogs for longer but that they're not able to compensate me, because it wasn't in the contract. Annoyingly because of it, I've effectively lowered my overall rate to half of what it should be due to all the petrol and time spent. They also gave me a 5-star review, which feels like an insult at this point. I'm actually so floored by the whole thing. But the main thing is they're not dead and their dogs didn't suffer, I guess. Notable comments. Commenter 1. This would be sent to every local pet sitter in my area. Really fast way to get blackballed as a client. How utterly exploitative and shameless. I'm sorry this happened to you. Reply. Yeah, I've been drafting a message for our local pet sitters group. It's a pretty small community, so hopefully word gets around. Commenter 2. That is literally insane. I'd be sending them a bill. And if they didn't pay, I'd be taking them to small claims court, BC. I literally could never. Reply. Yay, my dad's already threatened to get on their case for me because it's actually insane. Commenter 3. Send a text saying an extra 36 hours wasn't in the contract. And that you need to charge double for the extra time, because it interfered in your schedule and cost you working another well-paying job. Let them know they have 24 hours to pay you before you file in small claims court. The audacity of these people. They are lucky you stayed. Stories number 6. Wife 33. F cheated on me 34M with a woman 30F while pregnant. I'm devastated, so I'll keep this short. My wife came out to me last week. Our second daughter was born 3 months ago. She had been cheating for the majority of the pregnancy, ever since she told me. My wife has been posting on social media about her newfound sexuality and partner. And finally being able to live authentically and getting praised for her bravery. On top of that, her and her GF have been acting like parents on SM to our newborn, and I only found out she the GF existed a week ago. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with being cheated on and my marriage ending. It doesn't feel like I have the right to be angry because she was finding her true self. We will be getting divorced her request, but I want to keep things amicable for our 2 kids. We don't want lawyers involved. I'm feeling numb mostly. Not sure what to do or how to feel. I still love her, and she's the mother to my children. How do I navigate this? Edit. Sorry to the mods if I'm not updating this right. I wasn't expecting so many responses already. But it looks like the consensus is, I'm an idiot. If I don't get a lawyer, I'll be contacting one today. And thank you to the multiple people who commented or DM'd that without a lawyer, my wife and her GF might be able to make decisions regarding our daughter's health, travel, living arrangements, and more without my input. That hit home for me. Thanks everyone. Commenter 1. There is nothing brave about cheating. If she wanted to engage in a relationship with anyone other than her spouse, she needed to separate first. You are understandably hurt, but don't allow that to cause you to make poor decisions now. You need to get a lawyer. Commenter 2. You also need to get a lawyer involved. Your ex has shown how much she is willing to deceive you to get what she wants. You need someone who will look out for your interests at a time you are emotionally vulnerable. Commenter 3. Sexuality or not, she still cheated continuously on you before asking for a divorce. And I know that her having so much public support over her betrayal to you must hurt a lot. Keeping things amicable for the kids sounds great, but I do think you should get lawyers involved to ensure the process goes smoothly for you. Seek out therapists to help this transition, not only for you but for your children. Commenter 4. You want lawyers involved? This sort of selfish person will take you for all you're worth. You need someone looking out for your best interests because you don't know how to document all her social media posts once you lawyer up. That circumstantial evidence likely gets removed. She cheated and is breaking up the family over this. You need someone who is advocating for the best custody arrangement and asset split that you can get. Good luck, OP, and get into therapy. This is a lot. Don't trust yourself to be able to deal with it on your own. Get representation stories. Number 7. Aita for apparently being the reason my ex's engagement ended. I 27F have a 6-year-old child with my ex 29 Mim. We have been broken up since our child was 1. I have primary custody. My ex sees our child 2 weekends a month. The reason for this is my ex decided he didn't want to give up his whole life to be a parent, and he thinks every other weekend is enough. I should also note, he doesn't always take his weekends, and has let our child down in the past. 3 years ago, he started dating someone else, and they got engaged in February of this year. Once they were engaged, I started getting calls and texts from an unknown number, and I found out it was his fiancée. He had told her I would be open to her coming over and taking my child out for the day, and he gave her my number so we could plan this. He never mentioned it to me, and it took entirely too long for me to figure out what was going on. Getting a bunch of texts from an unknown number saying, "Answer the damn phone. Call me, I'd like to meet up and figure this out," is not something I expected. When I did answer a call from her, she was set on taking my child out for the day, and she told me my ex said it was okay. I told her it was not okay, and I didn't know her and I wasn't going to hand my child over to someone like that. Then I suggested she make the most of the time my ex has. This was not a popular answer with her, and she had my ex using our co-parenting app to send request after request for me to let his fiancée take our child out for the day. My ex told me in July that I was saying no too much, and it was ruining his relationship. Last month, his fiancée ended their engagement and broke things off with him. She blamed me via text and said she was not going to stay in a hostile environment where she's treated like stranger danger toward the child she's supposed to be the stepmother of. My ex blamed me for this too. He accused me of sabotaging his relationship and chasing away potential stepmothers from our child's life. I told him I did not give a damn about his relationships. What I cared about is having someone I don't know feeling entitled to take my child from my home. Then I pointed out he was the reason she believed she could in the first place. Instead of just moving on and accepting what happened, he is telling everyone I broke them up. Some of his buddies are quick to say something when they see me. I think most people see it as BS because he's not a very involved father to begin with. I did have a mom friend in a mom group I'm a part of. Tell me I kinda did sabotage his relationship because the woman he was with was trying to know my kid, and I didn't let her. She said I had no reason to say no like I did once I knew who was texting and calling and what she wanted. This turned into a small fight because I asked her if she'd be okay with it, and she told me she would. She said most single moms with primary or full custody would love for their kids to have people who want to take care of them. She said it was my ego that made me break them up because I didn't want my child to have a stepmom. I still think it's crazy to blame me, and I think it's also crazy to say I should have agreed to this, but I'm willing to be big enough to ask if I'm wrong, and accept if people think I am wrong. So do you think I broke up his relationship? Aita, for saying no to her taking my kid for the day on my parenting time. I am so curious. Comments commenter 1. She's basically a stranger and he expects you to just hand over your child to her? Reply, she was a stranger. We had not met once when she started texting and calling. She didn't even ID herself when she was doing it. So I'm getting calls and texts from who knows. It could have been a scam for all I knew. Commenter 2, NTA, you didn't break them up. His poor relationship skills with you, your child, and his now ex-girlfriend have caused all of this. He is apparently poison in anyone's life. Commenter 3, NTA. And I imagine most of his friends who bother to learn all the facts about this would agree with you. Reply, I'm not so sure about his friends. I think they'd all side with him regardless, but who knows? Maybe if and when they have their own kids, their opinions will change. Commenter 4. I'm coming from the step-parent side, and think you did absolutely nothing wrong. That's insane to think you just here you go with your child without gentle introductions. She is not considering your child processing the whole thing at all. Reading about your ex and his ex-fiancée infuriated me and I'm not even involved. Don't take on board any of that ridiculous blaming. I'm sorry that's happened, it's not fair. Edit. 100% NTA reply. Thank you. I thought the whole thing was insane too. There's so much wrong with it, but I was apparently the bad guy in all of this. Because I didn't want to hand my child over to a stranger for a day. This woman didn't even tell me who she was when texting. But of course I'm the evil ex, commenter 4 reply. It's wild how basic boundaries is twisted into being the evil ex. Wanting proper introductions before handing your child to a stranger isn't manipulative. It's just good parenting. You weren't playing games. You were protecting your child. It sounds like she was pushing a fantasy of happy families and didn't want to face that the man she's with doesn't take real responsibility for his own child. Stories number 8. Tifu by accidentally becoming my client's wife's boyfriend. For context, I'm a divorce attorney. Been practicing for about 8 years now. Mostly family law stuff. Generally pretty routine work. People want to untangle their lives. I help them do it legally. Everyone moves on. Let's flash back to last March. I took on what seemed like a straightforward dissolution case. Client, I'll call Dave. Nice enough guy. Been separated from his wife for over a year. Just wanted to make it official. Nothing complicated. Decent retainer. Figured we'd have it wrapped up in a few months. Dave seemed reasonable. Not one of those vindictive types trying to burn everything down out of spite. Around the same time, I'd been seeing this woman Sarah for a couple months. Met her at a coffee shop near my office. Really hit it off. She mentioned going through a divorce, but I didn't pry. Not exactly first date conversation, you know? She had a different last name from what was in my client files. So when I ran my conflict checks, nothing flagged. Everything was going great with Sarah. Really great, actually. We were taking things slow, but it was heading in a good direction. Until we scheduled the first four-way settlement meeting. I walk into the conference room with Dave, chatting about keeping things amicable. And there's Sarah sitting across the table with her attorney. I literally just stopped mid-sentence. My briefcase slipped right out of my hands and hit the floor with this loud thud. Sarah went completely white. Dave looked back and forth between us for what felt like an eternity, and I could see the exact moment it clicked for him. "Are you fucking serious right now?" he says, not shouting, but definitely not pleased. Sarah started tearing up. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. I'm standing there feeling like the biggest moron in legal history. Had to immediately excuse myself with Dave. Guy was understandably pissed. Started grilling me. How long had this been going on? Did I know who she was? Was this some kind of setup to screw him over? I'm trying to explain that I'd been dating his wife for a couple months without having any clue who she was. He didn't buy it at first. What kind of lawyer doesn't ask basic questions? He keeps saying. Had to pull out my intake notes to prove the name thing. Show him how the conflict check works. Basically convince an angry client that I'm incompetent rather than malicious. Took about 20 minutes before he finally believed it was just spectacularly bad luck. Even then he's shaking his head, muttering about how fucked up this whole situation is. I explained I'd have to withdraw from his case and help him find new counsel. There's no getting around it. I've got a personal relationship with the opposing party, which makes it impossible for me to represent him properly. By the end, he'd calmed down enough to say, "This is the weirdest goddamn thing that's ever happened to me." Still wasn't happy about starting over with a new lawyer, but he understood why it had to happen. The paperwork was a nightmare. Had to file a motion to withdraw since we were already in litigation. Transfer all his files. Deal with refunding unused fees. Sarah and I didn't speak for 2 weeks after that meeting. We were both mortified. Her attorney spent forever trying to convince himself this wasn't some elaborate scheme. Even though nobody intended for this to happen, it was still my screw-up. Should have had better procedures to catch conflicts like this. Doesn't matter that it was an accident. You mess up the conflict check, you deal with the consequences. Dave texted me a few weeks later, but it wasn't friendly. More like, hope you realize this completely fucked up my timeline. Can't say I blame him. And just to add insult to injury, my malpractice insurance premium went up when I had to report the conflict. Comments. Commenter 1. I've been practicing over 10 years. You're not incompetent. And based on Dave's text to you, I think it's a good thing you had to withdraw. Kinda makes sense. Sarah's divorcing him because he sounds like an asshole, so yeah. Incompetent? Nah. You're a good lawyer, embarrassed? Yeah, this one's not gonna be funny for a while. Reply, I don't fault Dave at all. I was sleeping with his wife while representing him. There's no version of that where I'm the victim. It doesn't matter that I didn't know who she was at first. By the time I figured it out, the damage was already done. He had real things riding on that case. Money, time, his business, and my withdrawal blew up his timeline. I can say it wasn't intentional, but that doesn't mean it didn't wreck him. He had every right to hate me for it. Commenter 2, her name wasn't on the paperwork? Or was it Sarah married last name and you knew her as Sarah maiden last name and never thought of it? Commenter 3, kept your client's money unused funds could be nothing for all we know while having sex with the other side. Yeah, your firm is a shit show for hiring you. Also, the wife gave you a different name. Did you give her a different name too? Update? Tifu by accidentally becoming my client's wife's boyfriend. So it's been about 7 months since the conference room incident. And people have been asking what happened. Short answer, it's been a mess. About 3 weeks after I withdrew from Dave's case, I got called into a meeting with the senior partners. 3 partners, our firm's general counsel, and a rep from our malpractice carrier on video call. The managing partner slides a folder across the table. Opposing counsel reported a conflict of interest issue to the state bar under rule. We've been notified of a disciplinary inquiry. Fuck, Dave's new attorney filed the report. They don't get to decide what happens. They just report potential violations and the bar takes it from there. I have to explain everything. How I met Sarah, how we'd been casually dating for a couple months, how she used a different name socially, how my conflict check on her legal name didn't flag anything because I never connected the dots. The general counsel is taking notes. Walk me through your conflict check process. I explain the intake procedures, how the system works, how Sarah's legal surname didn't match what she told me. It sounds worse when I say it out loud. This is a clear model rule issue. Material limitation conflict, the general counsel says. You were correct to withdraw under Rule 116, but we need to understand how this wasn't caught earlier. The malpractice carrier rep unmutes. We'll need to document this as a circumstance that could lead to a claim. It'll be noted when your policy comes up for renewal. Great. The firm mandates that I complete an 8-hour CLE on conflicts of interest before taking any new client intakes. They've already registered me for a seminar that Saturday, 8 a.m. of course. I show up at a hotel conference room with about 20 other attorneys. One of the instructors is Patricia, a divorce attorney I've opposed a few times. She definitely knows why I'm there based on the look she gave me. Most of the morning is standard material. Rules, case law, procedures. Then we get to case studies and Patricia brings up in Reed Johnson, a 2019 disciplinary matter. Attorney representing a divorce client starts dating someone. Turns out to be the opposing party, discovers it at a settlement conference. Same exact situation as mine from 6 years ago in a different state. And I wanted to sink through the floor at lunch. Another attorney mentions he heard about something similar happening at a firm in town recently. Doesn't know it's me, but clearly the story's getting around. I finish the seminar, pass the exam, bring the certificate back to the firm. A few weeks later, the bar sends a letter. The inquiry is closed with a private caution. Basically a warning that stays in their files but isn't public discipline. Could have been worse. My malpractice premium went up about 15% when it renewed in September. The carrier cited the reported disciplinary circumstance in the renewal letter. The firm implemented some new procedures for me specifically for the next 6 months. I have to get conflicts pre-cleared by the general counsel before taking on any new client. They also added mandatory nickname fields to our intake forms and conflict check system. The worst part isn't the official stuff, though. It's that people know, not everyone, but enough. I've been called the coffee shop lawyer twice at bar events. Last month, opposing counsel asked if I'd met the other party before, with this look on her face. The story's definitely circulating. Some versions have me engaged to Sarah. One has me not finding out until trial. It's becoming one of those cautionary tales people tell each other. Haven't dated anyone since March. Deleted the apps. Before I did, I matched with someone who mentioned her divorce, and I immediately asked who her lawyer was. She unmatched pretty quick. Can't really blame her, Dave. If you see this, I'm sorry, man. I really didn't know. I hope things worked out okay for you, Sarah. Hope you're doing well. Everyone else, just ask the basic questions. Run proper conflict checks, verify AKAs, it's not worth it. Comments. Commenter 1. Thanks for the update. Honestly, speaking from my non-lawyer brain, I think you really drew the shittiest hand. I don't think it's your fault, and that you took the right steps when you found out. I hope this will turn into a funny story soon. I was already rooting for you after your first post. I don't think this says anything about your skills as a lawyer. Commenter 2, man. I don't know how long you've been an attorney, but discipline cases get so much worse than this. Stop beating yourself up first. It was not intentional or through some incredibly basic neglect. Basic conflict checks were done and just didn't ring an alarm bell. Second, you immediately did the right things once you realized. Third, you've paid your price, man. You've done your stupid all-day CLE. All these new procedures. Paid the new premiums. Taken the small and temporary reputation hit, man. You've been penalized. Stop adding more time onto your sentence. There was a local attorney who was openly dating clients, in lieu of payment, multiple times, and it still took 2 years before he was finally suspended. You got zinged with a rare circumstance that let you fine-tune your conflict checks and learn a valuable lesson. You're not a fly-by-night garbage attorney. I have more experience as prosecution, but I've done enough defense work in my private practice years to give you the advice I've given self-flagellating clients. Guilt and shame are constructive, to a point. Once you've already made amends and done your time, you're benefiting nobody by beating yourself up more. Commenter 3. I work for lawyers and it's such a small community. Even in a big city, without ever asking or digging. Know so much dirt on so many lawyers. I know who's had the mental breakdowns. Who's been to rehab and for what? Who got arrested for soliciting underage prostitutes. Who knocked up their secretaries. Who shot himself with a fellow lawyer's gun. And that's just the first few off the top of my head. And doesn't even include the dirt I know about attorneys I've actually worked for. Man, I feel for you, but in a few years' time, it'll feel more like mythology and less like a ghost haunting you. Stories number 9. My boyfriend destroyed my deceased grandmother's jewelry box, and I think I deserved it. My boyfriend and I have been together for a year and a half. There have been a few times when he's blown up on me over the smallest things. Usually, he gets angry and makes it everyone in the house's problem. When I finally stood up for myself, he hurt me in one of the most painful ways possible. I don't know if I should forgive him or if the blame is on me. My grandmother died of lung cancer when I was 12. She was the toughest and most hilarious little old lady, and I miss her every day. Everything my grandmother intended to give us after she passed was taken by one of her sisters before we could get to her house. By the time my mom was finally able to get there, very little remained. Among the few items left was a beautiful white jewelry box that could sit on a counter. My mother gave it to me after seeing how drawn I was to it. That jewelry box was the only thing I had left of my grandmother. When I moved out of state to live with my dad as a teenager, it was one of the few things I refused to leave behind. A couple of days ago, I wanted to get my hair done, but was indecisive. So I asked my boyfriend what he thought. I gave him a couple of color choices I was considering. Jet black or a random shade of red. He told me he preferred black over red. I took his thoughts into consideration, but ultimately decided to go with the red. As soon as he saw me earlier today after my appointment, he was furious, saying I never listened to him, and that he was so repulsed by me he couldn't even sleep with me until I changed it. He called me several expletives. I decided to go lie down and rest before my shift that night. Ignoring him didn't diffuse the situation at all. He started grabbing everything that was mine from our shared bedroom and throwing it down the hallway. He kept saying I was in the way and told me to get up and sleep on the couch. He's done this several times before, and every time he waits until I break down and apologize before I'm allowed to move my things back into our room. This can last anywhere from a few hours to a few weeks. However long it lasts, he makes sure my life is a living hell the entire time, yelling at me, belittling me, and telling me what a terrible person I am. This time, I was over it. I was too exhausted to play his game, so I just lay in bed, trying to drown out the vile things spewing from his mouth. When he saw he wasn't getting a reaction, he started breaking things and tearing up my drawings before destroying each item. He kept saying all I had to do was get my things out of his room and get my ugly ass out. When I still refused, he grabbed my jewelry box and held it over his head. As soon as I realized what he was about to do, I became frantic. I started sobbing and begging him to stop. I was so loud that his mom heard me from her bedroom on the other side of the house and came to see what was going on. She tried to reason with him, but he was enraged. He just kept shouting, "Get the F out now!" After about 30 seconds of chaos, he slammed my jewelry box onto the floor. I was speechless. I began to sob, but no sound came out. His mom looked at me and told me to go sleep in her room and lock the door. As soon as I left, I heard her unleashing on him. I am positive I heard her slap him hard. I just took my blanket and did as I was told. Eventually, I managed to fall asleep when I woke up. Both my boyfriend and his mom were gone. I didn't have time to question it because I had to go to work. I'm currently on my lunch break and still haven't heard from either of them. I guess I'll have to figure out what's going on when I get off tomorrow morning. I think it might be my fault he broke it, because all I had to do was get out of the room. My stubbornness destroyed one of my most treasured possessions. I feel like an idiot, and I don't even know if there's a way to repair it. I'm just so heartbroken, and I needed to vent. Update. My boyfriend broke the jewelry box I inherited from my grandmother, and I thought it was my fault. This is an update to a post I made a couple of days ago. After I got off my shift that morning, my boyfriend was sitting on the front porch waiting for me. As soon as I opened the door and got out, he approached me and kept telling me how sorry he was. I was still very angry and hurt, so I didn't say much when I walked inside. He led me to our room. It was spotless, the cleanest I think I've ever seen it. He showed me that he had tried to put the jewelry box back together. I know he did his best, but there were pieces missing, and the glass from the doors was shattered. I just looked at him and said, "Thank you." I didn't complain or say anything else because I knew what would happen if I did. Apparently, though, I wasn't enthusiastic enough, because he got annoyed almost immediately. He started calling me ungrateful. I told him that he couldn't undo what he did, And that's when he became irate. His mom was at work, so I didn't really have any backup. But his little sister was home after he started yelling. He grabbed my jewelry box again and took it outside, shouting that I was ungrateful and didn't deserve him. His 6-year-old little sister heard us yelling and followed me outside. We both watched as he threw the jewelry box onto the concrete, smashing it worse than before, and then picked up several pieces and put them in his pocket. I started crying again and fell to my knees beside the remnants. His little sister came over to comfort me and told me that she loves me more than she loves him. That her big brother was really mean. I told her that I loved her too, but she shouldn't say things like that, especially while he could still be listening. She nodded and helped me pick up the shards of wood and glass. I told him I wanted to leave. At first he called my bluff and said, "Fine, leave then." But when I texted my dad that I needed him to come get me and he realized what I'd done, he lost it. He started crying uncontrollably, took my phone, and texted my dad back pretending to be me, saying it was all a misunderstanding, that everything was okay, and that we'd worked it out. After that, he spent probably 4 hours talking to me, telling me he was going to be better, that he was sorry, but also pointing out all the things I do that are wrong or shitty. I think tonight was the first time I really looked at him and knew that this is going to be over. I don't know when or how yet, but I know this is not going to be the rest of my life. Comments, commenter 1 girl GTFO out of there. Call your dad from bathroom if you have to and tell him to come no matter what, because your hopefully soon ex is abusive and controlling and broke your stuff and he pretends to be you through text. Commenter 2. Good grief, you need to leave. Take the advice above, call your dad, and tell him to come for you, and to ignore any messages saying otherwise. Your boyfriend is violent and abusive. Next time it could be you. Smashed up on the pavement. Please leave ASAP. For your safety. Commenter 3. He did this over changing the color of your hair. Leave before he traps you with pregnancies. He an abusive person. He not sorry. Block him on everything, and if he says he changed, he hasn't. Get some therapy, and I'm sure someone on here can recommend some books about this type of behavior. Think there one called Why Does He Do That? I would really suggest reading up on abusive relationships, so you can have a better understanding about love bombing, etc. It could saves you years of heartache and whatever he's told you to lose self-esteem. Just know he's wrong. He does it to control you. You matter and you're worthy of love that is kind, calm and boring, and honestly it's the best kind. Commenter 4. With all due respect, what are you waiting for? Reply. For a long time I would have said, because I love him. Now I'm just scared. My dog is big pregnant and he's already threatened hurting her if I did something. I don't want to leave her and her babies with him. Stories number 10. My 24F boyfriend 29M of 1.5 years is stealing my opinions and skills to look cool. I know this sounds dramatic, but hear me out. I'm trying to keep it from getting too long, so I put 2 main instances as examples. I don't think I would have really noticed it if we weren't both working from home and living together. But my boyfriend constantly copies things that I say and do, and repeats them to friends and coworkers as if they're his own original ideas. And it's not just that he repeats them, but 99% of the time, he does it with things that when I say them, he argues with me about. Example 1. We watched a TV show on Netflix a couple months ago. I brought up that while I liked it, it had some pretty problematic stuff regarding the way it treated women. And LGBTQ+ women in particular. I'm bisexual. He really argued with me and wrote off the things I brought up, making excuses regarding how Hollywood is, and saying I was being too sensitive, overly critical. The next day, I heard him in our living room talking to his friends on Skype about it. He brought up my exact points, using my exact wording, as if it was his own idea. I enjoyed it. But I try to be sensitive about this issue, and this was something I noticed. That type of thing. They praised him for his progressive thinking, and it rubbed me the wrong way. But I tried to forget about it. This sort of thing has happened over and over, like multiple times a week. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's a book I'm reading. Sometimes it's life advice regarding work. I started noticing it, and now I don't think we've had a similar argument without him later repeating what I say to other people like, it's his idea. Sometimes it has to do with things I know a lot about, for instance. Very specific skills that I have, but he doesn't. He will talk to people as if he has those skills and has done those things. When he's talking about things he's seen me do. Example 2. The last straw came when I made him a special dish that I love. And the recipe is one I developed over years. It's very time-consuming, but he loved it. He asked me to make more, and I did because I was pleased he liked it. I spent a whole afternoon doing it, and I made extra so that he could take some with him to a work meeting to share. He told me he would brag about what a talented girlfriend he had, and it made me feel really happy. The day after, I heard him in a Zoom meeting with his coworkers, and they were all talking about how good this dish was, and they kept talking about how surprised they were he was such a good cook, and how he'll have to cook more for them. He was acting very humble, saying thank you and even mentioning ways he had perfected the recipe, and the only mention of other help was he offhandedly said that a friend had helped him with some of the prep work. Later I told him that I overheard him and what he had said. At first he got really defensive. He told me that he was caught off guard, and that afterwards, he came clean to them, although I didn't hear that part. I told him it made me feel bad, like I was unappreciated, and it took away things that I love and am proud of about myself. Then, he got upset and said that he just hates feeling like a failure or like he can't do something, and he felt like a terrible person for hurting me. He apologized, but I felt like the conversation had kind of turned into one about him and his vulnerabilities, and no longer about how it has hurt me now. I've heard him do similar things multiple times again. I feel like it's ridiculous to bring it up again because it will start a fight that won't mean anything. But it's making me crazy. Am I being too sensitive? Should I just let it go, or is it worth bringing it up again? And if so, how? Relevant comment? Commentez un. What I am wondering is why you want to be with someone who doesn't have a single independent thought, who steals your identity, who disregards your feelings and accuses you of being too sensitive when he's the one lying and presenting a false mask to the world. The problem here isn't your boyfriend. It's why you're willing to put with someone who clearly has some character issues. This is who he is. He has little regard for how you feel about any of this. He's unlikely to change. Reply. I didn't really realize all of this was happening until recently. It's making me reevaluate other little things as well. Most of our time together, we've both been very independent and busy with our careers, so we didn't have many situations where I would have noticed that. Then we moved in together, and I lost my job thanks COVID a couple months ago, so I have more time to think and notice these things, and leaving is more complicated than it previously would have been. I have very few connections near me and limited savings. But trust me, I'm not blind now. Commenter 2. I dated someone who did this sometimes. Not as much as your boyfriend, but that's okay because he did other really shitty stuff. What it boiled down to for this guy was a couple of things. The biggest was that he was extremely passive-aggressive. Giving me credit for saying something smart was just out of the question for him. It would feel like he was letting me win because for him, every interaction was a win-lose scenario, and he hated to lose. The other, related reason he did it was that he didn't want to reinforce in people's minds the idea that I was his girlfriend. Commenter 3. Yeah, good point. Why did he tell his coworkers a friend helped him with the recipe? Do they even know who he lives with? Reply, I have been wondering that myself after reading these comments. He claims he talks about me, and I know that his best friends and his family knows because I've hung out with them. But I realize now I have no idea if his coworkers or other friends even know if I exist, or they do know I as a person exist. But they don't know we're anything other than roommates. Update, after reading all of your comments, I didn't want to jump to conclusions based on things strangers on the internet said. But certain things really gave me pause. I realized that the problem was much bigger than the issue I had originally posted about. I had been writing off some things in my relationship that had already given me some concerns, but I blamed on my anxiety or insecurity. I won't go into them for sake of length. Things really began to click when I took people's advice to look up gaslighting and narcissistic personality, so I began to take note of those small things, and also do a little digging, mostly. I began to realize I was being gaslit, a term I didn't understand before posting here and lied to. Biggest concern of all, I found out that he manipulated me and created a fake crisis that made me think my old living situation was in jeopardy, which was the reason I moved in with him. I can't go into more details or someone will definitely identify me, but I had been unsure about moving in with him, and that crisis had pushed me over the edge, and I now realize it was how he controlled me and isolated me from my friends. Suffice it to say, at that moment I was ready to leave, but now that I knew how far he would go, I was scared to break up with him until I had an escape plan. So I decided to write down everything that happened so I couldn't be gaslit anymore. And as soon as I made that decision, it's like things just fell into my lap. I found out that he was constantly looking up exes and girls he had met on dating apps in the past, many of whom were friends with me on social media. He let me use his laptop, and I saw his Facebook search history. Some light digging revealed that he was receiving flirtatious messages from girls, and while nothing overt happened, he definitely avoided mentioning he was in a relationship to them. I caught him texting the girl who he talked to before me. It ended badly, and trying to reconnect, even though she didn't want to. She told him to fuck off and ended up blocking him and even deleting most of her social media. I never found out why they didn't work out, but I'm guessing he was an asshole. And then, completely on accident, I was messaged by one of his female friends whom I had met a couple times. Turns out they had met on a dating app, and had gone on 3 dates while he and I were together early in our relationship. We compared texts and found evidence of him lying to both of us and gaslighting me. There's even a chain where I mention he is being cold to me and asking if something is wrong, and he convinces me that it was my anxiety making me read too much into things again, all while texting me from his date with her. Even more small stuff I won't go into. Yesterday, I found a temporary place to live today. I broke up with him after laying all of the shitty things he did out in front of him. He lied multiple times even during the conversation. He didn't know I had receipts and proof, and boy did his tune change when I pulled that out. He tried to convince me that all of it meant nothing, and make me feel sorry for him by talking about his childhood and how he has insecurity issues. I told him that we all have issues, and while that explains his behavior, it doesn't excuse it, and he can't use trauma as an excuse to traumatize others. I told him he can stay in our apartment, but he can't talk to me. I don't want to interact with him, and after we move, I want him out of my life completely. I found a place to live, although it's smaller and farther from work. But I'll do whatever it takes to get out. I can move in the 1st of November. This has low-key messed me up a bit. I never had trust issues before, and I feel like I am completely doubting my own judgment. I was so sure of myself before. But I know once I'm out that things will be better, and I feel like there's a weight off my shoulders. Although I admit I feel like a total idiot for not figuring things out sooner. I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and gave advice. You all helped open my eyes. This has been really crappy. But I know I've learned a lot, and won't make those same mistakes again. TLDR, I finally broke up with my BF today after a month of making an escape plan, and finding out some pretty bad stuff about him, including lying, creating a fake crisis that forced me into his arms, and sort of cheating on me. I'm moving out at the end of this month. Final comments. Commenter 1. How can you have trust issues when you succeeded in identifying a narcissist / liar, learning about a way to manipulate you didn't know about, gathering evidence, confronting the abuser, and moving out safely? I understand why you feel bad about yourself, but you should really think about the way you handled it so it didn't end badly. Reply, this honestly made me tear up. I didn't think about it like this, and it really did make me feel better. Thank you. Commenter 2, wow, this is insane. It's so scary to think you don't really know the person you are sharing a bed with. I'm so happy you were able to take a step back to see what was really happening. I hope you can heal from this awful relationship and forget about him. I would like to say I am so proud that you and the girl you interacted with in no way were rude to each other, and knew that this was all his fault. Not everyone is mature enough to understand that, so good on the both of you. And I would just like to draw attention to something you said. He can't use trauma as an excuse to traumatize others. This girl. Just because people have had it rough doesn't give them license to be a shitty person. And I'm so happy you didn't let him guilt trip you. Again, wishing you all the best. Reply. Thank you so much for your kind words. It truly means a lot. I'd like to give credit to the other girl as well. She messaged me to ask about something totally unrelated. And when she mentioned their history and I asked the timeline, I was honestly terrified of her reaction. But she was very kind and supportive, and we exchanged numbers and worked the details out together. She had been cheated on before and gave me some really good advice and has been consistently kind. We currently text back and forth about unrelated things, usually our plant babies, haha, and I couldn't have asked for a better reaction from her. Stories number 11, Aita for leaving my friend stranded after she showed up late for the 3rd time. Hey guys, I'm 23 and I drive a small Honda Accord, and I usually give my friend Tiana, who's 22, rides to work since we live close by and start work around the same time. We both agreed that she helps with gas every 2 weeks, and I pick her up on my way. It worked fine for the first month without any problems. After the first month, she started running late very frequently. Every single time I'd text her, I'm outside, and she'd take 10 or 15 minutes to come out. Sometimes even longer. I've tried being patient, but I kept showing up late to work because of it. My boss even noticed once, which isn't a good sign. So I decided to talk to her about it last Friday. I warned her that I'd only wait 5 minutes because I couldn't afford another late mark to risk my job. When I pulled up, I texted her, "Here." She said, "1 sec." After waiting 5 minutes, I called but she didn't answer. I waited another minute and called again and same thing. I then left about 15 minutes later. She spammed my phone with tons of messages saying I abandoned her and made her walk in the heat, and that she missed the first part of her shift. I told her I was sorry, but I had already warned her multiple times. She said I should have waited because that's what friends do. She hasn't spoken to me since, and one of our mutual friends said I was kind of harsh and could have just waited 5 extra minutes to keep the peace. Now I'm wondering if I was too rigid about it. I know life happens, but I feel like she just didn't respect my time. Aita for leaving without her after she made me late so many times? Comments, commenter 1. She hasn't spoken to me since. And one of our mutual friends said I was kind of harsh and could have just waited 5 extra minutes to keep the peace. Tell mutual friend to drive the inconsiderate late person to work. Reply, one of them said, "What are friends for if not for inconvenience?" I just stopped replying at that point. Commenter 2 NTA, you communicated, gave her advance notice of not being able to wait for her for an undetermined amount of time, and you waited for her for a few minutes before leaving without her. You're doing her a favor by driving her, yes. Even with her helping you out with gas money, it's still a favor. Shit happens. People are late sometimes. But you can't sacrifice your job for her tardiness. Reply, exactly. I had to put myself first. If I kept on tolerating it, she'd not stop. Commenter 3 NTA. She's made you late to work multiple times, you warned her. Then you even waited past the time you said you would, and gave her multiple texts and calls. She said I should have waited because that's what friends do. No friends actually respect each other's time by ensuring we aren't late and negatively impacting them. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your job, which is what will happen if you keep showing up late because of her. Because she can't be bothered to set alarms for herself. She's not a child, and you're not her mommy. You were doing her a favor by driving her to work so she wouldn't have to walk. And she repaid you by making you appear to be an unreliable employee because she kept making you late. Reply? It got to that stage and I couldn't take any more of it. She didn't appreciate all I've been doing. She felt like I was obliged to. So I had to set the record straight. Commenter 4. Obviously NTA. Frankly, the only thing that's unclear is why you need to ask. You explicitly told her in advance that you wouldn't wait. For the very justifiable reason that you were getting in trouble with your work because she kept making you late. What else is there to say? As an aside, there is no more stupid, uninformed, illogical group of people in the world than the unnamed mutual friends of people who post on Aita. Reply, and what's crazy is that they know the whole story, but still paint me as the bad guy. So I guess I'll give them a good pose. Stories number 12. I'm 29F, richer than my boyfriend 31M, and we're planning to get married, but his best friend's divorce is making me nervous. I 29F have been dating my boyfriend 31M for a little over 3 years, and we've started talking seriously about getting married next summer. I love him more than anyone. He's kind, grounded, and has always been supportive of me. But lately, I've been feeling a bit uneasy about something I'm not sure how to even bring up. Financially, we're in very different places. I'm doing well, I've built a stable life, own my place, and don't really have to stress about money. He works full-time, but he's had a tougher path and doesn't have the same level of savings or assets. It's never been a problem between us, at least not openly, but sometimes he makes little comments like, "You don't have to worry about bills like I do," or, "You probably don't even notice when money leaves your account." He says it jokingly, but there's always something behind it that feels a little heavy. What really got in my head recently is that his best friend is going through a divorce, and it's messy. His friend's wife is the one who was earning more, and apparently he's now trying to get a chunk of her money in the settlement. My boyfriend told me about it and said, I can't blame him. He supported her while she built her career. That comment stopped me cold. I didn't say anything in the moment, but it's been eating at me ever since. I know my boyfriend isn't that kind of person, but it made me realize how differently people can view money and fairness in relationships. Now I'm overthinking everything. Would that difference between us ever turn into resentment? Would it make things complicated if we did get married and things ever fell apart? I hate that I'm even thinking like this, but it's been sitting in the back of my mind ever since that conversation. Has anyone else been in a relationship where one person earned significantly more? How did you handle that imbalance, especially when you started thinking about marriage? Comments, commenter 1. It sounds like you are entering the potential marriage with assets. It sounds like maybe that isn't the same situation for these friends. If you are worried about your assets, get a lawyer for you and your boyfriend when you get engaged and discuss prenups. Commenter 2. Everyone who gets married should understand it's a legal agreement to share finances. No matter if you think your boyfriend isn't that kind of person. He'll go after what he's legally entitled to at the end, most likely. Commenter 3, I mean. If he financially supported her for a period of time, and that enabled her to end up in a better financial position now, it seems pretty fair that her ex-husband should get some of the money. Regardless, you need to have a conversation with your BF about financial expectations if you were to get married. That's literally the only way you're going to know what his opinions are. Commenter 4. Get a prenup but question. Was he wrong about his friend? Did he support his wife while she built her career? If so, why did you take offense to him saying his friend deserved part of it? Stories number 13. I'm trying to surprise my girlfriend and surprising her way too much. My girlfriend and I have been dating for a little over a year, and she's been saying how much she loves surprises. I thought I'd do something cute, a surprise dinner date at her apartment, with her favorite food and candles. The plan was simple. She'd get home from work, and I'd already be there waiting with everything set up. Romantic, right? Well, the simple part didn't exactly happen. I got the spare key from her. She'd given it to me months ago for emergencies. Picked up food, candles, and even a little Bluetooth speaker to play her favorite playlist. I set everything up perfectly, candles lit, lights dimmed, dinner laid out, the works. Then I heard her at the door. I got all excited, dimmed the lights even more, and hid behind the counter thinking I'd pop out and say something cheesy like, "Surprise, babe." The door opens and she screams, like blood-curdling screams, drops her bag, grabs the first thing she can, a frying pan, and swings it at me before I even have a chance to move. I duck, nearly knock over the food, and start yelling, "It's me, it's me." She just freezes. There's a full 3 seconds of silence where we're both breathing like we ran a marathon. Then she bursts into tears and yells at me for scaring the life out of her. Apparently, she thought someone broke in because she saw shadows moving around from the candlelight through the window. My romantic surprise turned into a full-blown panic attack for her. I felt absolutely horrible. I cleaned everything up, apologized about 100 times, and we ended up eating cold pasta in awkward silence. She eventually laughed about it later, but she also told me to never surprise her like that again, especially not in my own apartment with the lights off. You lunatic, fair enough, TLDR. Tried to surprise my girlfriend with a romantic dinner at her place. Hid to jump out and say surprise. Scared her so badly she almost hit me with a frying pan. Comments. Commenter 1. Glad you're already laughing about it. If you do want to pleasantly surprise her, a post-it outside the door that says surprise. Signed by you, a text on her way home, anything but danger reply, haha. Yeah, lesson definitely learned the hard way. I think a post-it or a text is the safest way to go next time. I can't risk being on the receiving end of a frying pan again. Commenter 2. Why is there a frying pan beside the door? Commenter 3. Should have told her you'd be there for something small. Like picking up XYZ object, that would have made it non-traumatic and she'd been surprised all the same. Reply, exactly. If I'd just said I was popping by for something totally boring, she'd still be surprised without thinking there was a home invasion happening. Live and learn. My romantic ninja skills need some serious work. Commenter 4. Wow, what a great story. She thought someone broke in because she saw shadows moving around from the candlelight through the window. Hang on. After seeing this through the window and thinking someone broke in, her response to this situation was not to run away and call the police, but rather come through the door, emit a blood-curdling scream, grab a frying pan that was hanging on a coat hook right in the entryway, and attack the intruder? She did all of this before I even have a chance to move. So you must have been standing right at the doorway, right? I hid behind the counter thinking I'd pop out and say something cheesy. Stories number 14. AITA for staying anonymous after reporting my sister and her husband to CPS. My sister met her husband when she was pregnant with another man's child. She never told anyone in the family who the father is other than he was an ex. She never told him about their child either. When she was asked about this, she said he didn't want to be with her anymore, so fuck him, and that she'd met someone better anyway. She told us her husband, then boyfriend, was going to be the father of her baby, and he said he'd step up. They got engaged while she was still pregnant, and she wanted to get married before her son was born. He said no. Once these discussions were brought up around us, it became very clear my sister lied, and he had no desire to be a father to her son. He corrected anyone who asked if he was excited to be a father, and snapped at the suggestion my sister's son could be his junior. My sister stayed with him anyway, and left the father blank on my nephew's birth certificate. My nephew was 1 when my sister and her husband got married. My sister's husband refused to include my nephew in any way, and when photos of the 3 were suggested, he said the wedding was for them, not him, my nephew. They had their first child together several months later, and they had another within a year. And his mistreatment of my nephew has become even more blatant since he had children with my sister. He doesn't want any of his money going on my nephew. He refuses to let my nephew stay home with him and the other kids if my sister is busy. My sister has paid for a babysitter to come to her home while he's there with the other kids because he said he would let my nephew starve. He's warned others to keep an eye on doors and windows because he wouldn't stop my nephew from running out in front of a car or from falling out an open window. I have babysat a few times and noticed no bruises, so to my knowledge there's no physical abuse. But there are threats of it. My sister buries her head in the sand. She defends her husband, but she also tells my nephew he's daddy. While he grumbles at my nephew every single time he calls him daddy, I did speak to my sister, and she wasn't receptive to hearing how awful it is. I was afraid to rock the boat too much and be pushed out, so I decided to anonymously report to CPS. They investigated but didn't find anything to warrant removing my nephew from my sister and her husband. When I reported, she had a bad run-in with a babysitter and some neighbors over how my nephew gets treated, so she's not sure who reported them. She swore that she would go apeshit on whoever it was when she finds them. Because of this, I have stayed anonymous. I also called to find out more info on why nothing was done, and it comes down to my sister making sure my nephew is fed. And because he has a bed and had no bruises or marks on him to suggest physical abuse, my sister said they told her it was an anonymous report, and they were a coward to still hide and everything. Some of my family agreed with her and meant it, which was disappointing to me. Everyone else keeps quiet and doesn't seem to care much. And that's one big reason why I stayed anonymous. I know I will never see my nephew again if my sister finds out it was me, and I don't know if anyone else will speak up if things get worse for my nephew Aita for staying anonymous though. The consensus in my family appears to be it's cowardly and pathetic to stay quiet if you felt brave enough to report in the first place. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, stay quiet and on good terms with your sister so that when your nephew gets older and can see the obvious favoritism, he has a safe adult he can go to. Commenter 2 on NTA. Stay anonymous but keep a close eye on your nephew. Let him know when he is the right age that you are a safe space. And quite frankly, neglect is abuse. Reply, I agree with you. But with his basic needs met and no signs of physical abuse, it doesn't appear to be a case CPS cares for. I worry though, with how strongly my sister's husband despises my nephew, it could be the smallest thing that leads to tragedy, and he admits he wouldn't stop him from being hurt by someone else, so it's not a huge jump to say he might do physical harm all on his own. I hope not, but I will keep my eyes open. Commenter 3, poor kid. Stay quiet and be ready to support when it gets worse. Your Beal is a POS NTA. Reply, my sister too. She knew when she was pregnant how he felt, and she begged him to marry her, and stayed even when he didn't give a fuck about my baby nephew. This guy has been around since day one, and he hates a little baby. It's sick, and she knows and chooses to pretend things are great. Commenter 4. But I would recommend doing a different approach because that kid will have some issues thanks to that piece of work as he grows up. I'd recommend on never telling anyone about it as long as your nephew is with them, because then you'd probably lose access to your nephew. Another thing to keep in mind with this is to build a paper trail, like messages from family or anything like that to help you build up a case. Maybe you could try to talk to the husband about you keeping him. I know it's sneaky, but it sounds like the husband wants him gone, and it might work in your favor if you ask him about taking him. If not, my best advice is to be there for him the best you can, because it sounds like your family isn't either. If they didn't say anything about how the sister's husband is neglecting him, and your sister is equally responsible for putting your nephew in that type of environment with a man like that. Reply, if I talk to my sister's husband about my nephew living with me, it will get her heckles up super fast. She might even realize it was me if I push for him to leave there. After all, she pretends things are perfectly fine and great even. Stories number 15, AITA for not adhering to the wedding dress code. So, my sister is getting married in about a week. Outside by a lake, both the wedding and the reception. She's very particular, borderline bridezilla. But she's always been that way our whole lives, so I expected nothing less. She requested every female attending the wedding wear a specific style of dress. Long black dress, I guess, is to not take any attention away from home. I, however, am very pregnant, due August 13th pregnant. and can't imagine anyone being comfortable in a thick, long-sleeve black dress in the middle of summer, let alone a 38-week pregnant woman. I asked my sister directly if I could adjust the dress a little bit, make it not as long and shorter sleeves, and she freaked out. Told me I couldn't change the rules because then she'd have to do it for everyone. I told her I wouldn't subject myself to heat stroke, and she's putting people in danger by forcing them to wear black long sleeves outside in the summer. My mother told me I was being ridiculous and I should just suck it up. But I think my sister is the ridiculous one. I'm thinking of just wearing a nice black dress that I can be somewhat comfortable in. Or not even going whipta if I didn't adhere to my sister's strict wedding dress code. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I don't want to say you'd be the asshole your sister is being ridiculous, but I just wouldn't go if she's being that way. No need to show up and cause a scene if that's what will happen. I don't think purposefully going against her rules is right unless she agrees. Commenter 2. I agree. I mean, I assume this dress code was known a long time ago. OP should have brought this up at the time. Or when she knew it was not right before the wedding. The style of the wedding is up to the bride. And since this is a last-minute request, then OP should just not go or stay inside. Reply. The dress code was sent out about a month ago, so this has been an ongoing issue, but at the time she just said she'd prefer everyone wear black, which is fine. Commenter 3. Info. Your sister is being particular and unreasonable, but it is her day. Can you look into different black dresses with more lightweight fabric, or is she insisting on a particular long black cotton, or heavier fabric? Reply. She's insisting on a particular style, which is long-sleeved and ankle-length. I have no issue wearing black, but I asked her if I could alter the style a little bit. She basically wants all females except her and her bridesmaids to be sexless black blobs. Commenter 4. ESH. Going against. The dress code would be pretty asshole-ish and probably make a lot of the pictures clash, but I feel like your sister could have inquired a bit more about what you wanted before deciding on dresses for everyone. Reply. I don't want to not wear black. I just don't want to wear long sleeves, ankle-length thick dress at 9 months pregnant. The dress she sent me as an example is made of thick material, completely impractical for summer. No matter what the event, Commenter 5 YTA, this is your sister's day. Do what she wants for an hour, and then maybe change during the reception. Reply. She's having the reception and wedding in the same place, outside on a lake, so there'd be no chance to change. Commenter 6. ESH. She's being unreasonable, but it's not unheard of for people to want a certain look for their pictures, and you're planning to purposefully and surprise antagonize someone on their day, which is also shitty. Why can't you just obtain a lightweight long-sleeve black cardigan or something of the like? Then you'll match in all the pictures, but be able to take it off if you get overheated, or just get a super lightweight maxi dress. Reply. I don't want to antagonize her, but I also don't want to get heat stroke from being in the 100-degree weather or 37°C while I'm 2 weeks from giving birth. She wants me to wear a very specific dress, and honestly, it's ridiculous of her to expect anyone to wear thick black in the middle of summer. Commenter 7 Info. Are there some sort of culture issues at play here? Reply. Nope. We are very white, very American. No cultural issues. She just doesn't want to be outshined by anyone, which she wouldn't be. Commenter 8. ESH. Bride is bridezilla. Mom is terrible for saying you're being ridiculous. And it sounds like the way you tried to address this with your sister isn't helping, accusing her of putting her guests in danger. Not subjecting yourself to heat stroke, even if true, are not very tactful, and automatically put your sister on the defense to dig in on her choices. For the record, I don't think your sister should be dictating the dress of anyone not in the wedding party. That's flat out wrong. I do not think you're in the wrong for not wanting to participate in that. But I do think you could have addressed this in a more productive conversational manner. Reply. I only said the heatstroke comment after she told me I was being a whiny little bitch about the dress code. But I did say it could cause heat stroke, so that doesn't really matter. Final update. 1 month later. Update. Aita for not adhering to the wedding dress code. So I posted about a month ago about my sister requesting I wear a long-sleeve ankle-length black dress to her lakeside wedding in summer, while being 9 months pregnant, and I've gotten many requests to update. Well, I ended up having my baby like 3 days after making the post, so I was in the hospital when the wedding happened, so I didn't go. My sister was there when I pushed her out, and apologized for being a bridezilla, so all is well, and I have a cute baby. Sorry that this was an anticlimactic update, but I give the people what they want. ETA, sorry guys, no baby tax. I'm not comfortable posting photos on a public forum, especially with some creeps and assholes on here. Wow, I'm an idiot. I should absolutely update what happened at the wedding. Sorry. I got that mommy brain. She still wanted everyone to wear black. But she did go lax on style, so like kind of a redemption arc. The photos look nice, if not a little dreary. She thought black would make things look classy. She looked beautiful, so mission accomplished. Relevant comments, commenter 1, and I have a cute baby. Haha, love that, congratulations. Also, that's great to hear you rekindled with your sister and that she apologized. Commenter 2, so every female had to wear a long sleeve. Long skirt black dress to a wedding in the middle of the summer. I know you weren't there, but how many people actually adhered to that rule? Commenter 3, I bet that was the creepiest looking wedding. Commenter 4, OP delivered. Commenter 5, congratulations. Is there a dress code to meet the baby? Reply yes, a hazmat suit. Stories number 16, Aita for not canceling my plans to attend my sister's wedding. I've heard multiple varying opinions from the people I know IRL, so I'm posting this here. For context, I have 3 siblings, and we are all in our 20s. Our oldest sister, Jane F. 29, recently announced her engagement to a man we all knew, but no one knew she was dating. And the only place she announced this was Facebook. She claimed she thought none of us would see, and had asked our father to let us know of the engagement. Her and our mother and father live in the small town we all grew up in, less than 5 minutes away from each other. The rest of us live on the east and west coast, respectively. For some reason, I-26F ended up logging into my Facebook on a night I couldn't sleep after getting back from a trip, and seeing Jane and Aaron's 30M status update announcing their engagement. I called Jane the next day to congratulate her, and let her know I was slightly confused but still happy for her. Jane blew up at me after I expressed my confusion in a peaceful manner, and we haven't spoken since. I have spoken to our father multiple times since then and have been informed that this is just how she behaves, and that I need to suck it up and show up. But I really don't care anymore, and neither do my other 2 siblings. The lack of communication has been loud, and I don't care to unravel the layers of disrespect that have been happening. The icing on the cake is that I have an important surgery planned for the week before that will take weeks of recovery, that has been scheduled since the beginning of the year. I'm not willing to reschedule my plans for a last-minute chaotic wedding of 2 people that can't be bothered to communicate with anyone. I've let my family know I'll do my best to make it, but the plans I've made come first, especially after all the planning it took to take off that much time from work. AITA for not canceling my plans to make sure I can show up to this wedding. Edit, since multiple people have asked I was invited to the wedding. I got an invitation in the mail a week later, even though we hadn't spoken. The surgery is for major vision issues that are keeping me from driving and causing major headaches that make it hard to go to work every day. No one in our family knew she was dating Aaron, not even our parents. Commenter 1, you're not worth a phone call to notify you of the engagement, but you're expected to attend? You're so important, in fact, that you need to postpone surgery. Absolutely not. NTA Commenter 2, NTA, your surgery comes first. It's been scheduled for months. She just sprung this wedding on everyone at the last minute. She then instructed your father to let you and your other siblings know. Got pissy with you for being surprised she was dating Aaron, much less marrying him, and hasn't bothered to clear the air with you since. Your sister has no regard for her family. You owe her nothing. Take care of yourself and have your surgery, and don't give her a second thought. I doubt she's giving you one. Commenter 3, NTA, because the whole situation is whack, but rescheduling an important surgery that has been scheduled all year? No way. Who knows when you'll get back on the schedule, all the pre-admissions testings, and you probably let your job know or arrangements for work, which is a whole lot more planning than she did for her whole wedding. And traveling after a surgery probably isn't worth it either. Maybe try to talk to her and your parents and be like, I'll Zoom, watch the ceremony, and I'll catch up with you all the next holiday or reunion ECT, but I have to get this surgery and rescheduling is simply not an option for me. Commenter 4 NTA. When you make last-minute announcements, lots of people aren't going to be able to come. There's a reason there's a whole industry about making and sending invitations. Stories number 17. I'm not giving my stepdaughter's old room back to her. My husband has 2 kids from a previous relationship who are F20 and M23. When we married, they had already moved out of our house. We have a baby together, M1, who now sleeps in his own room, which is stepdaughter's old room that we turned into baby room. Now all of a sudden they both want to move back in. Stepdaughter lost her job and can't afford her house anymore. Stepson is done with college and recently moved back to our city. I said they are both welcome back, but they have to share stepson's room. There is no other room to put baby's stuff, and I'm not going to put it all in a storage or something like that. That's baby's room now. They are adults and they moved out and I wasn't gonna keep the rooms empty for them. Now they are angry and saying I'm an asshole. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Why are you having to be the bad guy? It seems like your husband's problem to solve. NTA. Reply. Because they keep arguing with me while he is not around. He has made it clear that either they take that one room that is given to them, or they can just leave. Commenter 2. Start turning a recorder on your phone when your husband is not around and the stepkids are. Make sure they do not notice. Then show husband how they treat you when he is not around. Maybe he will realize they should not move back in. Maybe they can share a cheap apartment. Reply. I don't need to. He believes me over anyone. I just don't want to be that kind of stepmom. If I told him they are bothering me, he wouldn't let them stay here at all. Commenter 3. Does your home have a basement? Where is your husband in this equation? Reply. It has an unfinished basement that needs a lot of work done and will cost us a lot. We have a baby, it's expensive. We don't have extra money to just finish the basement for them. He agrees with me. Commenter 4. Just curious. But where do they suggest the baby be? I with you and your husband? Would they rather share a room with a baby? Are they suggesting the baby stay in the unfinished basement? If they do not want to share a room, they can get an apartment together. One could not move in, or one of them can clear a spot in basement for themselves. Baby needs a room. They may be tiny, but they come with lots of stuff. NTA. I hope they bugger off and give you some peace. Reply. They think the baby should be with me and my husband. Downvoted commenter YTA. But because of how you said it, not because of the situation. You could have handled that more sensitively. Or let that discussion happen between their father and them instead of coming from you. Yes, it makes sense that one of the rooms is for the baby. They're probably just mad about the situation. You should talk to your husband about your response and ways to cool things off before continuing to discuss with your stepchildren. Reply. I don't discuss with them. They keep discussing with me when my husband isn't around. Why don't the stepchildren stay with their mother? Reply. She has a much smaller house than us. They are uncomfortable there. UOP's stepchildren can move in and refinish the basement themselves. Reply. They don't have the money either. Also, it needs to be temporary. I don't want 30 adults living in my basement. Commenter 5. The older kids will remember this forever. Your husband is a full-grown adult who chose to have a second family at his age. Reply. He is 45. Most people his age get married for the first time. He is allowed to have a life. They are also full-grown adults. Commenter 6. And how old are you? Reply. I'm 31. How does it affect your judgment? Explain in details, please. Update Aita for not giving stepdaughter's old room back to her. I decided to just tell my husband everything they have been saying. I didn't want to say something originally because I didn't want to cause problems between them. But they are old enough to know exactly what they are doing, so they should also be prepared for the consequences. I'm going through a lot lately. I'm still struggling with PPD that just doesn't seem to go away. I told my husband that I will never ask him to choose between me and his kids. But I have to choose between me and his kids, and I choose me. My mental health is important. His kids haven't even moved in, but they are already here all the time, and they keep arguing and nagging and pushing me to my limits, and I can't worry about them sharing a room. I have enough problems already. I told him I'm gonna stay in a hotel for a few days because I need to be away from him and his kids. This includes the little one. I just need a few days off from being a parent. He didn't let me leave and instead took the baby and left. He returned about an hour ago. He had bought some takeout for me. He asked how I'm doing and said the baby is with his sister and is doing well. He gave me the keys he has given his kids and said he took them away, and they can't just walk in ever again and need permission from now on. He said I should have just said something sooner instead of waiting until I get to my breaking point. He is gonna help his kids find a cheap apartment and some roommates, and he will help them with rent for a few months until they can afford to pay it themselves. They are not happy, but he is not willing to give them more. He and our baby will stay with his sister for a night or two so I can get some rest. But if I want them back sooner, I can just call them and he will return. We are finally gonna repurpose stepson's room as well. It will just be a guest room for now, but he wants to buy some bookshelves as well, so we can have a library too. Well, I guess that's all. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 ESH. You admit you have PPD, and instead of seeking any sort of support, you were going to ditch your baby and your husband? You also have guaranteed his kids want nothing to do with you or their half-sibling. Yeah, they were dicks, and you're right not to want them there. 100%. But the way you went about it made sure they won't forget. Reply. I'm getting help. It doesn't magically go away, especially when you have a history of depression. I can't just take a pill and be cured. I matter too. My therapist says there is nothing wrong with spending some time alone without my husband or even my baby. Commenter 2. I'm very glad your husband stood up for you and baby. Quite frankly, adult kids need to understand they can't keep running home every time life gets hard. Reply. Yeah, thanks. I'm lucky to have him. Commenter 3. Well done. You've achieved your aim of alienating your husband from his kids, 20-0 who lost her job, and 23-0 who has just finished college. I notice you didn't answer the question on your previous thread about who paid for the house you live in, or how long you're married. Reply, I assure you, my stepkids didn't pay for the house, and being married for a short time doesn't make me less entitled to my own house or less of a wife. Commenter 4, you could have a bit of sympathy for them. It's tough to not be able to go back to your childhood home because your father married a much younger woman. You're within your rights, but you could have a bit more grace. Reply, our means mine and his, so saying mine is not wrong. If I say I took my child somewhere, does it mean my child is no longer my husband's child? You are grasping at straws. No one is asking them to disappear, but I can't have arguments every day at our house. It's not healthy, anyone. Of course it is nice, for a night or two. And last time I asked my husband, he and the baby are staying in the guest room together, not demanding 2 bedrooms. Stories number 18. Saying I won't go to my friend's wedding after she dropped me as her maid of honor because of my looks. Sophie and I, both 27, have been close friends since we were 4. We're not the speak every single day Susanna type friends. But I genuinely considered her a sister and her parents like an aunt and uncle. Our families are close. My whole family is invited to her wedding, as is my boyfriend's family. My boyfriend is Sophie's brother's best friend. That's how close we all are. So I wasn't really surprised when she asked me to be her maid of honor. And I think I've been a good one. Well, 2 weeks ago, Sophie, the other bridesmaids, and I went to try on bridesmaid dresses. I thought we all had a good time, and that it was a successful trip as we found dresses. Apparently not really, because a couple of days later Sophie asked to meet me. She asked that I step down from being maid of honor. She said seeing me in the bridesmaid dress made her realize she just didn't want me stealing focus from her, and that she wouldn't feel good standing up there knowing everyone was probably comparing us. I was so hurt, I admit I cried right there in the coffee shop. Partly because I never wanted her to think that anyone would be thinking anything other than that she was the most beautiful bride on her wedding day, and partly because I was just so excited to be up there with her, and she was kicking me out over something that I couldn't even control, and wasn't really true. So I said fine, it's her wedding. If she didn't want me up there, I wouldn't be, but I wasn't going to come to the wedding as a guest, when clearly my presence was going to be a burden to her. Sophie said that wasn't what she meant, and I asked her to explain. She said she desperately wanted me there, so she was going to put aside her feelings. But she just wanted pictures at the altar to be with her looking the best, and to have that moment with everyone looking at her up there. She also wanted me to tell everyone I dropped out because I was too busy. I said none of this felt fair, and I wasn't going to lie for her. I was a good friend and did nothing wrong, and she was being a brat. But that was her prerogative, and I didn't have to play along. I told my boyfriend about this, who was pretty horrified, and agreed that if I didn't want to go, I shouldn't. Although he still is because he's friends with the groom, but my mum and stepdad think I would be the AH if I didn't go. My mum said it's also been obvious that Sophie was insecure. I never noticed this, and that she can understand where she's coming from. She said I've had the spotlight our whole lives again. I don't think this is true. Sophie is far more outgoing and well-liked than I have ever been, and even though it's pretty sad, maybe she does deserve to be the princess on her wedding day, and I shouldn't hate her for it. She says I'll regret missing the wedding over this. My stepdad says I should go because she's my oldest friend, and even if she is being unfair, sometimes you have to let people be irrational. I really don't know now. Sophie and I have so many mutual friends, there's not a lot of people I can ask about this without it getting back to her. So here I am. I feel like maybe I'm being a jerk having this blow up, but I don't see why I should even stay friends with someone who would exclude me from her wedding party over something superficial. And clearly she's been sitting on these feelings forever. Not to mention I already paid for her whole bachelorette party and the bridesmaid dress, and contributed to the cost of her wedding jewelry. And now I just feel used. So am I being a petty AH by refusing to go? Comments, Commenter 1 NTA, cancel everything that you can to get some money back if possible. This friendship is done. Commenter 2, make sure you let all the other bridesmaids know that Sophie finds them appropriately homely to remain bridesmaids. And you thought they should know where they stand. Commenter 3 NTA, your stepdad says, sometimes, you have to let people be irrational. Well, you let her be that, but that doesn't mean you need to do what else they want. Maybe she's your oldest friend, but you are clearly not her friend if she thinks she could play this kind of game with you. You didn't go rampage or cussed her out. You just stepped back and don't play her game, saying to your friends and family you stepped down instead. The truth. I'm fully on your side. This so-called friendship is doomed or is down, and get your money back, for real. Commenter 4. I love how people seem to think you will regret not going. And not that she should regret her shitty behavior throwing away your friendship, because she's jealous of you. I wouldn't go to a wedding where the bride appointed me maid of honor, let me pay for all the stuff related to that, and then kicked me out of the bridal party for any reason. But hers is particularly pathetic. I think most of my friends are hotter than me, but I'm not a pathetic baby, so it's fine. NTA Stories number 19, taking my house key back from my boyfriend? My boyfriend 24M and I 26F have been fighting about this the last few days. I live on my own and do not get any kind of help from my family. While he lives in an apartment purchased by his grandparents, he pays rent. $800 a month, which is on the lower end for my city. Until a couple months ago, he told me that he co-owned this place with his grandparents. But it turns out he is not on the deed and had been lying to me out of embarrassment. We had a big fight about it, but made up. We've been seeing each other for about 8 months. A few months ago, I gave him a spare key to my place as a token of goodwill, and since we were spending almost every day together, he uses this key regularly, and when I gave it to him, he said he'd be getting a spare key made to his place and give one for his to me. Cut to months later, and he still hasn't gotten me a spare key. At first, it was an issue with the property manager. Then it was too expensive to get $50 by the way to have it made, but I suggested just going to Home Depot, which he refused. Now he has to get permission from his grandparents, who are hesitant to let me have a key. I have met them multiple times, but they don't like me because he babysat my cats at his place, and they scratched up an old carpet, which I have offered to pay for and replace. I'm exhausted. I hate nagging him to get this done, and if it was an impossible task for understandable reasons like the homeowners not wanting me to, I feel like that should have been communicated when I gave him my key. I've been telling him for months that if I don't have a key to his place, I don't feel comfortable with him having a key to mine. It feels unequal. He says I'm being unreasonable by wanting to take my key back and acting on emotion, that it's easier to just have keys to one another's places. That's my point. It is. Am I the asshole for taking my key back since he can't seem to give me a key to his place? This all feels so juvenile to me. I haven't needed to ask for permission from a family member to do anything since I was 17. But I did grow up very independent, so maybe my viewpoint is skewed. Comments, commenter 1. The issue isn't that you don't have a key, it's the fact that he's lied to you and keeps avoiding having the discussion as to why he won't give you a key. He lied to you for months about his financial standing and whether or not he owned the place. He doesn't own it, and he will probably never own it. He said he would get you a key, but now keeps giving excuses because he has no ownership and cannot give you a copy. There's more issues in this relationship than a key. Just change your locks and find a guy that's on the same page as you. He's not even mature enough to have an open, honest conversation. Commenter 2. I'll give you back the copy of my key when you give me a copy of yours. Give it back right now, then change the locks. Because I bet he made another copy. Also sitch him, he's a liar. NTA, commenter 3 NTA. He says it much easier to just have keys to each other's places. But he won't follow through. He can get a key made at Home Depot or Lowe's for less than $10. If he really wanted you to have a key to his place, he would get you one. Get your key back. Take it off his key ring if he won't give it to you willingly. This man has already been busted for lying to you in the past. Dollars to donuts, he is lying again. Commenter 4. It's not wrong of him to live in a family home. Times are hard right now. But is it wrong to lie about it? Stories number 20. My boyfriend's family took out student loans in his name and I don't know what to do. Where do I even begin? My boyfriend 28M and I 25F have a 7-month-old daughter together that we are working tirelessly in this economy to support. My boyfriend's family has not been speaking to him for 5 months, for other reasons that are very messed up in themselves. His own mother didn't even reach out to him on his birthday last month. Anyway, so my boyfriend has never been financially literate. I've had to guide and teach him a lot, which has been frustrating but is not his fault. He has spent the last year on a payment plan to pay off his debts, and really made a difference in his credit score. However, as he was looking into getting his own car finally, he found that his credit score had dropped tremendously, and we were both shocked. Come to find out, he has 3 different student loans that were taken out in 2017 that he did not take out himself. I was livid while he was more in shock than anything. What he had been told back in 2017 was that his grandmother was taking out loans for him to go to school. No one ever specified that they would be in his name. No one gave him account information. He never heard anything about them after he went off to school. So here's my problem. We really cannot afford to have these loans thrown into our bills. We now are not able to get a second car. And his family is not speaking to him, so we don't have any of the loan information to find out more. Not to mention this is literally illegal, and he doesn't want to report his own family for fraud. I don't know what to do because thinking about this money is stressing me out every single day. It's been weeks, and he hasn't tried to call his family to question them on this, and all I can think is that we have to figure this out ASAP. It's taking everything in me to not report them for fraud myself. What do I do? Comments. Commenter 1. There's a simple but painful answer to this. Someone is on the hook, and unless you pursue legal action on the family and win, it will be him. The obvious answer is, if you actually believe you're not responsible, to get a lawyer. Inquire about possibilities and if they agree to fight the fraud. But he can't have his cake and eat it too. You can't claim fraud while absolving and not pursing the family. As the lenders won't care and just wipe away the debt for funsies, your choices are: do nothing and pay the debtor, claim fraud, and pursue legal action against the family with a lawyer. Someone is paying that debt. And again, lenders don't care about your misunderstanding. Commenter 2. First thing. Pull full credit reports all 3 bureaus and freeze or put a fraud alert on his credit, so nothing else gets opened in his name while you sort this out. Commenter 3. Not to mention this is literally illegal, and he doesn't want to report his own family for fraud, so they get to take out student loans and ruin his credit while you two suffer, and he doesn't want to hold them accountable? At the very least, lock down his credit. Freeze it and also go to E-Verify and lock his SSN so no one can use it to get a job. Commenter 4. He had been told back in 2017 was that his grandmother was taking out loans for him to go to school. Isn't that exactly what student loans are? Did he actually attend school and someone else paid for him? If so, it sounds like he misunderstood or just assumed grandma was taking out a bank loan under her name. I suspect if you ask him if he signed anything back in 2017, he would say yes. No one ever specified that they would be in his name. No one gave him account information. He never heard anything about them after he went off to school. When I applied for student loans with my parents' help, I too did not have account information, and they never contacted me until I was done school and had to pay them back. The difference is, they sent me the money directly, while I suspect his parents handled his money for him. Now if he never went to school, never signed any documents, and never had use of the money, that definitely is fraud. As others have said, he will need to report it to police and let them handle it. I won't repeat the other good advice mentioned by others. But get all the facts first. Stories number 21. Aita for refusing to pump for my mill, so I am a first-time mom, and this whole experience has been very overwhelming for me. My wonderful baby just hit 3 months and is officially no longer a newborn. I have been lucky enough that I have good supply, so my baby girl is exclusively breastfeeding except for any excess that we use when my husband does her night feeds. I have made it very clear to most of our friends and family that I don't want anyone but me or my husband feeding her. My MIL has been slightly annoyed, bordering on judgmental about this, but has mostly kept her mouth shut. We have never had any issues in the past, so I just chalked it up to her wanting to bond with the baby. I might allow it when she's older, but for now, I'm not comfortable with anyone else doing it. So we were over at my Aunt's house for her son's birthday, and while all the cousins and husbands played outside, me and all the ladies sat inside playing past the baby. She ends up in my mill arms and begins to fuss and make her hungry cry. I stood up and went to take her before she pulled her back and told me to go make a bottle. I told her no, that I would go to the guest room and feed her. My sister-in-law stood too and said she had some formula and would make it for me. I refused again and quickly took my baby, saying she's never had formula and I don't want her to be sick. My MIL sighs and rolls her eyes and asks, "Why don't you just pump some so I can feed my baby?" I must have been visibly horrified, because one of my other SILs stood and tried to guide me away by my shoulder. I took her to the other room to feed her and sat in there with her for the rest of the party. The sister-in-law whose party it was came to find me. I almost hit her when she said, "Don't you think it's a little selfish you won't let mom feed the baby? You could have just pumped a couple of ounces for her." I said I would never pump anything for anyone because I'm not a cow, and she's my baby. She declared I was being bitchy and walked away. My husband doesn't know this is all happening, but on the ride home, his mother and 2 of the other wives texted me to tell me it was unfair to hog my baby and to make it so she couldn't bond with anyone else, and that I should have just pumped before I came so I didn't have to hide her away. My MIL specifically said that I was being so selfish with her only granddaughter, and it wasn't fair to her that she couldn't even feed her baby. I just texted back that it wasn't her baby and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I know I should tell my husband, but I don't want to add more strain, as he and his mother are still trying to heal their relationship from when they had a big fight a couple years ago. I don't want to cause drama, but I'm starting to feel very guilty, especially since I'm still getting tons of texts about how cruel I'm being. Am I the AH for refusing to pump for my MIL? Edit. Small bit of context. My little sister choked whilst being fed by our great aunt and almost died. She hadn't been holding her properly and my sister had to be rushed to the hospital. I was very young, but the memory is still very fresh in my mind, even when my husband is feeding our baby. I never want my baby to be unsafe while being fed, and I worry about other people feeding her because of this. Edit 2. I have absolutely nothing against formula, and I absolutely would have supplemented if needed. I ended up getting very lucky to have adequate supply for my baby. Formula is necessary for so many mothers out there, and while breast is technically better, I don't think anyone should be shamed for needing to use formula or choosing not to breastfeed. My daughter's pediatrician told me he prefers I keep her on breast milk as long as I can, and that formula could potentially lead to her getting stomach upset. Update. So since this all started, my husband had fully cut contact with all but his oldest brother and his wife. The rest of his siblings and in-laws were all firmly on MIL side. Everything has been peaceful aside from the occasional phone card from an unknown number. He spoke with his mother in person one time while I was at a checkup for baby. He told her that he is uncomfortable with her being an hour in the baby's life while she's treating me this way. He said that she cried and tried to switch blame onto me about the situation, which he refused. She has shown up once or twice just to leave gifts for baby. I have eased up a bit on my anxiety and have had 2 therapy appointments so far. I am very lucky as my job gave me an extension for maternity leave. I talked to baby's PED and he recommended a good brand of formula for us to have on hand for any emergency. I appreciate all the support and I apologize for the underwhelming update. I don't think my MIL is necessarily a bad person, but she's used to getting her, was especially with her family and the other women. I may update again if anything else drastic happens, but baby is happy and healthy, and meeting all her milestones, and I couldn't be more thrilled. Stories number 22. Aita for telling my mom she can only visit to help with my newborn without her long-term boyfriend. I live on the West Coast, and my mom lives on the East Coast, with her boyfriend of 7 years. My parents separated about 10 years ago. Some background. My mom has been in a relationship that has, frankly, completely changed her dynamic with my sister and me. Since getting together with this boyfriend, there has not been a single occasion where we have spent time with her without him present. Not once, she has even admitted to having codependent issues with him. In the past, my sister and I had a tradition of taking special girls' trips with our mom, which are core memories for us. All of that stopped once he was in the picture. While we've held some resentment for this change over the years, we've always been flexible, supportive, and polite, visiting with both of them when we can. The current issue, I'm about to have my first baby. I'm due soon, and realized I am going to need serious emotional and physical support during delivery, and for the first couple of weeks postpartum. I recently talked to my mom about flying out to help me. I explained that in this incredibly vulnerable, postpartum state I only need her, my mother, and that I would not be in a headspace to also host or socialize with her boyfriend. However, she did offer to have him stay at a hotel down the street from our house as a compromise. I told her this would be even weirder. Why have him fly across the country just to be alone in a hotel room while she's with me? I know the proximity would just make me feel guilty and obligated to check in on him, or have her constantly texting him, which defeats the entire purpose of having my mom's dedicated focus. Her response, when I reiterated my need for a mother-daughter only moment during this intense life event, and rejected the hotel idea, she called me inflexible and unreasonable. I am completely stuck. I feel like I have been flexible for years to accommodate her anxiety, induce codependent relationship, and the one time I truly need my own mother. She can't detach for 2 weeks. She thinks I am being unreasonable. I think she is. Update. Thank you all for the thoughtful responses. It's given me some much-needed reflections to chew on. I wanted to add some context that might help clarify the situation. Regarding me asking my mom for this help, I did know this refusal was a potential outcome. The little girl in me was honestly hoping that, for this once-in-a-lifetime event, my mom might choose me over her boyfriend. I realize now I need to have more realistic expectations. The reason I ended up asking for help is that she has been relentlessly bombarding me with calls and articles about how she'll come out in a heartbeat if I need her, and even sent me an article about how detrimental it is to go through this process without including your family. This made me, being 8 months pregnant and second-guessing myself, start to feel guilty, like I was doing something wrong, even though my original plan was for just my husband and me. So, when I asked for support in the specific way that would make me comfortable, she shut it down. We even offered to pay for her first-class ticket and told her any amount of time, even a long weekend, would be appreciated. And you know the rest about her response. Stories number 23. My stepdad said, I did nothing, so I started do nothing. Am I the a-hole? I'm a 17-year-old female who lives in a house of 9. Mom, stepdad, stepsister, and her 2 kids. Sister, brother, and his girlfriend. The other day I went to the kitchen and saw a crap ton of dishes. We don't have a dishwasher, so we have to do it all by hand. Usually that isn't an issue, except it always gets put off onto me. My mom and my sisters, I'd been sick, my sister was sick, and so were the kids, so we were all having a bad day, and seeing the mess I went into the family GC and asked that dishes be rinsed. They stopped being soaked in cold water, and since we don't have a garbage disposal to not put food down the drain, I also put in that it'd be nice to get help since there are 9 people and only 4 of us do the dishes. Specifically mentioned my stepdad and brother's girlfriend because they do them never, and I thought that was that job done. A bit late, he shot back in all caps, cursing me out and saying I should never tell them again what to do, because they pay the bills and we're the kids, and all I do is sit on my phone and eat. Saying I do nothing, I replied back telling him, fine, if I do nothing, then I'll do just that. It's now been 3 days and he's livid. The kitchen is a mess. My sister is overrun with the kids, but she's not making me help her. She agrees he shouldn't have said any of that. And it's more than the kitchen now. The living room, bathroom, and the kids' bedrooms are all trashed. The kids are a lot on their own for one person, so normally one would watch them and the other would clean. This isn't happening anymore. Am I overreacting or should I hold my ground? Update. My mom's been trying to mediate. She was in my side with how he talked to me and wants him to apologize. Stepdad came home about an hour and a half ago and we talked. No yelling or cursing. He finally caved and apologized for what he said and how he treats us kids. Keeping in mind both me and my biological sister are minors too, and not everything is our responsibility. The conversation ended well and he's helping clean. All that's left now is dishes, ironically, and he said he'd do those. Stories number 24. Aita for wanting to game while my roommate sleeps in a shared room. One of my household members works at 5 a.m. and has been slowly moving the goalposts on my computer use at night. I work at 8 a.m. and I'm a bit of a night owl. They go to bed around 9:30 p.m. and I'm more of a midnight person. We share a bedroom because of space constraints in our 1-bedroom apartment. At first, I did whatever I wanted once they went to bed. Then they complained that shooting games kept them up, so I stopped playing loud ones. Then they said the clacking of my keyboard was too distracting, so I switched to quieter games and quit playing MOBAs and RTS. Playing Minecraft and Hearthstone worked for a while, but now I'm being told I need to come to bed at the same time and turn off all electronics. It feels unfair. They fall asleep fast, but I have ADHD and anxiety, so sleep takes longer for me. Sometimes it's 2 hours of just lying there frustrated when I could be quietly gaming and relaxing until I'm tired. Tonight they feel asleep and were snoring before the 5-minute idle timer to put my monitors to sleep even triggered. And it's not like they need to race me to sleep. I snore maybe once a week, and I can hear them snoring when I'm on my computer, so it's not like they're waiting 2 hours for me to come to bed either. Aita for thinking I should be allowed to use my computer while they sleep. Stories number 25. If I insist my adult daughter participate in Secret Santa if she'd like Christmas gifts. I 43F, have a 19-year daughter. She graduated high school at 17, took a year off from college and works at Starbucks. This semester she finally has started taking some classes at the local community college. After she graduated HS, she moved in with my mom. Great for everyone as my mom is a widow and my daughter and I needed space. So, here's the predicament. Annually we do a Secret Santa. We each pick one person. We have a spending limit, generally between $150 and $250. But every year, because my daughter has been a minor and without a job, we always just got gifts for her, and then did the Secret Santa with just the adults. Last year was the first year she was an adult, and we all still got her gifts. This year I feel that she should participate in the Secret Santa. Will I be the a-hole if I insist that she should participate instead of getting individual gifts from each family member? My reasoning. My daughter only started paying my mom rent about 4 months ago, and she only pays $400 a month for rent. She is not saving her money that she has earned from Starbucks. Instead, she does things like buy DoorDash almost daily, purchases things off of fast fashion sites, and buys a pretty substantial amount of Mary Jane. I love her, and I have been trying to teach her how to budget and save. But while you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. She has plenty of money and spends it on herself regularly. And if she wants gifts, she should participate in the gift exchange. Edit. I am supplementing her income by paying an additional $400 rent to my mom for living expenses, for a total of $800 a month including utilities and food. The bills she is supposed to be paying are either paid late or only partial payment. I had no intention of not getting her a Christmas gift. Update. I appreciate all the feedback. I have a few takeaways from those. Spending for the Secret Santa is too high. Need to find a gentle way to speak to my daughter about expectations as an adult. With regards to gifts and other life things, need to find a better approach for communicating about the budgeting concerns I have, and my daughter's lack of concern for paying her bills on time and in full. Also, I believe if you have enough income for frivolous spending on DoorDash and weed, then yes, I believe she should be contributing more. But that is a conversation for her and my mom, who set the price of her rent. I think spending on those things in moderation is fine. But if you allow it to take over your responsibilities, then we have a problem. Stories number 26. Aita for rejecting my husband's attempts at intimacy. Sorry for the excessive background, but I feel like it adds context. I 30F have been with my husband 32M for 4 years. We have a toddler 2F together, and have lived together just as long. Overall, our relationship is in the middle. We're both stressed because we had no idea we were expecting, until the day I went into labor. Yes, I had periods every month. No, I wasn't emotional over pickles or puking my guts out. Following birth, I had postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. We've been extremely tight on money, have family drama on both sides and our own personal issues. I work the most, and therefore pay around 70% of all bills because my husband's job only has so many hours available. So I work my ass off to make as many tips and work as many hours as possible just to ensure we have enough for rent. At the end of the month, after utilities, groceries and other necessary expenses, we have maybe $100, $200 in money to play around with or use for emergencies. And no, we don't use DoorDash or anything. Literally every penny is rationed out because we're teetering towards the edge here. Anyway, on top of my work shifts, my commute is almost 2 hours one way because I take the bus and train. He picks me up from work 2 or so days depending on what's going on and how he's feeling, which shortens the way home to about 20 minutes. So when I get home, I'm exhausted. My back hurts. My feet hurt. I suffer from chronic migraines and GERD. Just recovered from a kidney infection in which an ambulance took me from work, and I'm on the brink of falling asleep just going home. My husband takes care of our daughter when he gets home from work, which is around 7 hours before I get home. She's at the age where she's a handful on better days and a hurricane on the worse ones. So I always make a point to take over of all childcare when I get home, help with dishes while he cooks, and we flip a coin on taking the dogs out. I also make a point to tell him to go out on our overlapping days off because I know he's exhausted too, so he can have some time to himself, but he almost never takes up on it, saying he'd rather be with us ever since having our daughter. Our sex life has tanked. We have sex about once a week. Sometimes up to 3 times, but I honestly never have the energy anymore. My sex drive went from 80 to 5. I explained to him multiple times that it's not that I find him unattractive or anything. I make sure to tell him every day that I think he's cute or handsome, to hold him, cuddle him, kiss him, etc., and that it's literally a problem with my hormone levels. My doctor even mentioned this was very normal after birth. Add life's many obstacles and sex is the last thing I'm thinking about. When I do get in the mood, I'll let him know, straight up tell him, I want you tonight, and we'll do all the flirty, sexy things to get the point across, just for one of us to fall asleep before we get there, or for our daughter to wake up looking for us. This past week, he's been very forward about wanting to have sex, and I've been on the same page about it, but once again, life got in the way. The first night, I had an extra stressful shift that made me just want to be held. The next, I was down, but he was in a bad mood. The third day, we were both into it, but I wasn't feeling well and started throwing up before we could do anything. Today, I had another long, stressful shift and straight up told him I wanted US time. Exact words were, I want to spend some quality time together tonight. I miss you. So I was expecting that once our daughter was down, we'd cuddle up on the couch, Watch a movie, talk, make out, then move into sex. I had spent over an hour trying to get our daughter to bed, and the moment I came out, he immediately started pulling my shirt up and fondled me. I laughed and said, "Hold on, babe, not yet." Because again, I was hoping we'd naturally get into it, and he flipped. He said he was frustrated with me for rejecting him all the time, that he's tired too and wants intimacy with me. I told him that I understood and want that too, but that just jumping me before I could relax and get comfortable was not the way to get me in the mood. Then he said I gave him mixed signals, like I apparently always do, and said I'm always finding an excuse to not sleep with him, which isn't true at all. I reiterated that we are both always tired, and that we both fall asleep or have no energy by the time we try. But he said it's always me who says no. I explained everything about my hormones being off and how my body has been in constant fight or flight mode regarding our family's financial stability. So sex isn't as in the forefront of my mind as it used to be, but he said I was over-exaggerating and gaslighting him. And if I really was still attracted to him, I'd talk to my doctor about my hormonal changes and demand a solution for it. Then he said that I was being an asshole for implying I wanted to get intimate just to reject him. But I wasn't trying to do that at all. I just wanted to get worked into the mood, not thrown into it immediately after fighting our kid to sleep. He stormed out and has been sitting in his car for the last hour now. He says he's sleeping there for the night because he's so mad. So now I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong here. Comments. Commenter 1, info. He picks me up from work 2 or so days depending on what's going on and how he's feeling, which shortens the way home to about 20 minutes. Am I reading this right? He could shorten your commute home from 2 hours. Yes, I am yelling to only 20 minutes, but it depends how he's feeling. Reply. It mostly comes down to things like gas money versus what's in the tank. Or if our daughter is in a I'm going to screech at the top of my lungs nonstop if you make me sit in a car seat right now mode. But sometimes he's tired from taking care of her, his own work stuff, and or dealing with the family drama going on. Or sometimes his friends surprise him and come over to watch baseball or football with him. I'm the one who volunteers to take the bus and train, mostly because he told me once that he was starting to hate driving because of how much he was doing it for his own work, on top of picking me up. So we have a set schedule where he picks me up twice a week and drives me there once. If we have extra money for the month, he'll call me an Uber. A second car is out of the question because I used to have a car. A drunk driver totaled it after hitting me on the freeway at 118 mph, leaving me hospitalized for a while. An injury caused by the drunk driver make it incredibly uncomfortable for me to drive. I feel safer for myself and others by taking public transit. Just before the accident, we sold his car since we never used it. Our apartment charges $250 per car. It was too small to fit the car seat in and we needed the money. We had to use all our savings to buy another car off Facebook Market and cover the rent while I recovered in the hospital. So it's financially impossible for us right now, because trust me, I'd love to drive myself and my family anywhere we want. But it's not only not financially feasible, but until I've gotten fully better and more confident in driving again, it's also probably safer for others on the road around me. I don't want to have an episode and end up blacking out and waking up to find out I caused an accident. For reference, my work is 28.6 miles away from home. Across a bridge, I live in a small town where only one bus route goes in and out of it. Once per hour, that bus would take me to the transit station the next town over, where I would either transfer to another bus for another 1 hour 37-minute ride, or hop on a train for an hour ride, stop at another station, wait 13 minutes for the same bus that takes an hour and a half, then walk 17 minutes from the final stop in order to get to work by 9:30 a.m. I leave my house at 6, walk 10 minutes to the bus stop, take the 14-minute bus out of town into the next, wait for the transfer bus or the train, then get to work and make the 17-minute walk to work and arrive at 9. If I took any other bus or train, I would be between 30-60 minutes late, so I have to take that route. And unlike a car, the bus and train take a particular route that usually stops at every stop. If the bus doesn't stop at every single stop, the ride cuts down to about 115 minutes. There are no other transfer points that align with the time I need to leave and the time I need to arrive. So yeah, with a car, it's about 20 minutes. 25 with traffic, with public transit, it's around 2 hours. And since it's across a bridge and around a lake, just walking isn't an option. Commenter 2, go to your doctor and demand he fix your hormone levels, not because you're depressed or anxious, but because he isn't getting enough, man, or a walking joke at this point. Why isn't he looking? For a better job to provide for his family and take the stress off of you? If his job only has so many hours, get another job? Then on your days off he gets to go out, but what about you? You pay the majority of the bills, and you take on the majority of the stress. What is he doing? Reply, to be fair, he's starting a new job with full, guaranteed hours in about 2 weeks, and he takes care of our daughter while I'm away. As for my days off, I tell him to go out, but he never does. He always wants to stay home, and he always tells me to go out. Either way, we usually just invite both of our friends to our place to hang out. Update, hi everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone for the comments and suggestions. I had a long talk with my husband about it once he cooled down, and here's how it went down. He immediately sat down on the couch where I was sitting, but didn't speak to me. He just sat there with his arms crossed, but he clearly wanted to say something. So I straight up asked him what the deal was, and he said that he was starting to feel insecure. He said he completely understood where I was coming from regarding my hormonal changes, my stress levels, and my workload, and he appreciates the sacrifices I make to keep us above water. He just felt like he wasn't enough, not making enough, not helping enough, and that he was starting to feel like he wasn't wanted or needed, because it seemed to him like I could have easily taken care of her on my own, without him. Then when he yelled at me, which he admitted was not how he meant to react, he got even more upset, not at me, but himself for getting that upset over it in the first place. Kudos to the commenter who suggested that could have been a thing. He said he felt shitty and embarrassed for reacting like that, and didn't want to be around me because it was making him more upset at himself. So he sat in the car, yelled at himself, and started reminding himself that he wasn't a fucking kid, and that he had to be there for our family any way he could. Regardless of his hormones, he was just overwhelmed and overstimulated with all the bluey. The M's Rachel, the super simple songs, the sticky fingers and the terrible 2 screeches and needed me. He also said that part of it was that our physical intimacy, not just sexual intimacy, was at play. He felt like we just didn't touch each other enough, even platonically, which reaffirmed to him that I didn't want or need him. To which I pointed out that I hold, touch and kiss him all the time, but he probably doesn't notice because he's always glued to either his phone or the TV as soon as I get home. He then tried to say he wasn't on the phone that much, just that he wants to watch a video or two to decompress now that I'm home so he can refresh from the kid stuff, but finally admitted it when I showed him multiple videos and pictures I've taken while doing things with our daughter, playing at the park, watching something on the couch, eating at a restaurant, selfies of me and her, etc., along with Instagram posts from friends and family that have him in the background with his nose dug into his phone and earbuds in his ears, which then became a conversation on his concerns about how much my job, specifically my bosses, the owners, is so stressful on me that it makes me come home upset and standoffish without me realizing it, which I totally admit to. And I won't deny that dealing with drunk customers and drunk owners all day make me drier than a desert. So we came up with a plan to decrease phone screen time for both of us, set up a babysitting schedule with friends and family so we can have time alone, and I would look into finding a different, closer job with bosses who aren't giving away free booze than making the staff pay for it. He also said he'll pick me up more nights so it'll cut my commute, and utilize the drive by taking our daughter to a park down just across the street. He starts his new job next week as well, which should even us out enough for me to go back to working normal hours again so we can spend more time together as a family. We also plan on doing more things outside of the house together, so neither of us are on our phones, giving our baby and each other our full attention, and we're using our pent-up energy more productively. He also promised that next time he's this pent up, he'll talk to me about it calmly, so yeah, that's that. Thanks again to almost everyone that commented. You're appreciated. Commenter 1, very nice to see things like this get resolved with clear communication. I hope that this works out for the both of y'all, as it sounds like a solid plan. Reply, thank you. Commenter 2, you bet. It's just nice to see something wholesome here for once that didn't lead to divorce. I sometimes go to r/love because I get tired of reading story after story of people deciding to divorce instead of communicate. So quite a breath of fresh air. Commenter 3, there's an r/love? I need to spend some time there. All my time on Aita and relationship subs depresses me. Commenter 4, my wife and I went through something similar shortly after we had our second kid. One Friday night I told her I wasn't happy. I didn't want another woman, I just wanted more of her. I told her I was going to bed, and the next day we needed to come up with a plan where we could spend time together. Just her and me. We started carving out Saturday nights. We put the kids to bed around 9, and then stayed up until midnight every Saturday night just hanging out, being intimate, etc. Also, once a year, we would take at least a weekend and leave our kids with her parents. These things, I believe, saved our marriage. Commenter 5, yee, you both sound like a great couple. Keep it up, you two. Reply, thank you. We try to be very open with each other about everything. I'm glad it got worked out. Stories number 27. Aita for ordering weird things in delivery to embarrass my MIL. My MIL is visiting our country. She has been here 6 months and will stay another 6 before she is her other daughter's headache. Me and my girlfriend have been planning on getting married. She is here to help us manage, and we naturally keep ordering a lot of stuff. Most of the things we order are random household stuff. Nothing private, but I just find it weird that she opens my packages. She also opened her own daughter's MyGF packages. I asked my girlfriend why she does it, and she said, 1. My mom thinks we are all women here, nothing to hide. 2. It's mostly kitchen stuff, and she manages the kitchen now, so she thinks it's hers. 3. Whatever she needs we order for her, so it comes in our name. She checks if it's hers, and if it's not hers, she keeps it in our room. All of these reasons I didn't understand. She is at home when delivery comes. No need to open the packages right away. Let me get home and check it, and if it's yours I will hand it to you myself. To handle this, I told her to not open packages because we need unboxing videos, these in case of damages. That did not stop her. She opened another package saying, I thought it was the mosquito repellent I asked for. The repellent is a long big can. The package was a dead small jewelry package. To combat this, I started ordering weird stuff, female condoms, weird masks, handcuffs, and today finally I ordered a strap-on. And I am sure she was dead embarrassed seeing it. I was having fun laughing at it. She said nothing. It was kept in my room. I told my friends as well. And then my girlfriend came home and I told her. Least to say, she was not happy about it. She said I should not have embarrassed her mom like that. We don't even use a strap-on. I should not have humiliated her. Very quick the conversation went to how I am making her feel uninvited, and she is a widow and alone, and we should be welcoming and caring towards her, etc., etc. Girlfriend is pissed, really pissed. Okay, maybe I went too far. But again, she should not have touched my packages in the first place. Commenter 1. Let me be the first to say it. NTA. But you have a GF problem, not a MIL problem. You came up with a silly, slightly passive-aggressive response to this situation that has been bothering you. Okay, but now what? You are allowed to have preferences and boundaries, and, hey, if packages are addressed to me, I will be the one to open them is perfectly reasonable. But if you say that repeatedly, and are ignored, then your GF needs to have your back and not make excuses for her mom. If GF can't understand that, you need to insist on couples counseling before the wedding. Commenter 2, ESH. Your meal for continuing to open packages after being told not to. You for intentionally trying to embarrass your MIL. Your girlfriend for not putting her foot down with her own mum. Commenter 3, your GF is the asshole. She needs to set boundaries now. If she lives away and is staying with you for months at a time, firm boundaries need to be in place. You think opening packages is bad? Wait until you have children. Your GF should be telling your mom, in whatever way she's comfortable, that your packages should not be open. If she cannot defend you in this, she will not defend you at 2 a.m. when mother-in-law is in your room grabbing the baby off your breast because you aren't doing it right. Commenter 4, your NTA, my Emil is visiting our country. She has been here 6 months and will stay another 6 before she is her other daughter's headache. Holy crap, that is an incredibly long visit, and it's about 51 weeks too long for a sleep-in guest. Your future mother-in-law is nosy and intrusive, and she earned what she got. If she refuses to learn her lesson, you're probably going to have to send your packages to a Dropbox since your future wife doesn't have your back. Edit. Fixed my original error with how long this extremely long visit is. Worse than I thought. Stories number 28. Husband sent me a voice memo of our baby crying while I was out. My friend asked me last minute today if we could get together for a quick visit. We haven't seen each other lately, and I haven't gone anywhere on my own in almost a month. I have a 4-month-old baby at home, and I'm EBF exclusively breastfeeding. Hubby was out of town for work today. He had an early start, so I called him and asked if it would be okay if I went out for a bit tonight with my friend to go get a drink or treat. He said it was all good, and even encouraged it. I fed the baby and left at 6:50 p.m. While my friend was driving, I texted my hubby and said to let me know if the baby is having a really hard time while we're out. He said okay, and asked if we could stop get more pull-ups for our oldest son before we came back home because he ran out. I said yeah. We'll go on our way back home, and that I'd wake my oldest and put a pull-up on him when I got home. Around 7:35 he sends me a voice memo. I didn't play it because my friend and I were chatting and I assumed it was either of my older son saying goodnight or my baby babbling laughing. He sent him mom a voice memo of him laughing a couple weeks ago. I should also add that we never send each other voice memos unless it was of our oldest son saying goodnight or good morning when one of us would be out of town for work. We went straight to the store after that to get the pull-ups, then headed back to my house. I got home around 8 p.m. and sat in the car with my friend chatting a bit longer before coming inside. We pretty much always do this, so I didn't think it was an issue. And he texted me at 8:10 asking what I'm doing out front. I told him we were just chatting, so I tell my friend I better get inside and see how the baby is doing. We knew it would be a short visit anyways. I get inside and the baby is sleeping, but then he wakes up, so I pick him up and go feed him. I remembered about the voice memo, so I played it, and it was of our baby crying. My husband comes upstairs, and I asked him why he sent me a voice memo of the baby crying. And he said, "You told me to let you know if he was having a hard time." I said, "Yeah, I told you to text me. I was chatting with my friend, so I didn't listen to the voice memo until just now when I got home. I thought it was oldest son saying goodnight or baby babbling or laughing. I thought you would text me if something was wrong. Not send me a voice memo of him crying," I told him. I thought it was really weird he did that. I wasn't even gone for long, he said. "I don't care, I'm just really tired." Then he didn't say anything else about it and just went to bed. I know he had a long day with work and having to drive out of town today, which is why I asked in the first place if he'd be okay with me going out for a little visit. I understand him being tired, but it just seems really weird to me and almost manipulative that he sent me a voice memo of our baby crying while I was out for about 45 minutes. Am I wrong for thinking that? TLDR, husband sent voice memo of our baby crying while I was out with my friend for under an hour? Stories number 29, AITJ for telling my best friend I won't put my life on hold to babysit her newborn. I 20F have been best friends with Maya 20F since we were 12. We've always been close, almost like sisters. A few months ago, she had a baby. The father isn't in the picture, and her parents aren't super supportive. So she's basically doing it on her own before the baby was born. She asked if I could help out sometimes, babysit here and there so she could rest or go to work. I said of course, within reason. I love her and wanted to support her. But after the baby arrived, sometimes turned into all the time, she started calling me almost daily, asking if I could come over just for a bit, which would turn into hours. She expected me to cancel plans, skip classes, or leave work early to help. When I said I couldn't, she'd guilt-trip me saying things like, "You don't understand how hard it is," or "You said you'd be there for me." It got worse when I mentioned I got accepted into a study abroad program for next semester. Instead of being happy for me, she started crying and said I was abandoning her and her baby. She told me I owe her because she's sacrificed everything while I get to go live my dream. I told her as gently as I could that I care about her, but I'm not the baby's parent. I have my own goals and life to focus on. I said I'd still help sometimes, but I won't put my life on hold for her. She hung up and hasn't spoken to me in over a week. Her mom messaged me saying I used Maya and dumped her when she needed real help. Now I feel horrible. She really is struggling, but I also can't be her backup parent forever. AITJ for telling my best friend I won't put my life on hold to babysit her newborn. Stories number 30. Conversation overheard at child's birthday party. Strawberry cupcake mom, pretty much the whole class is here. 18 is a pretty standard size for this district in my limited experience. Vanilla cupcake mom. No, I mean, when I was growing up, everyone I knew had at least one sibling. I was the odd one out for not. Now that's the exception. Most of the kids here are only children. Strawberry cupcake mom. I planned on having 3 kids. At 35, I looked up and realized, I don't even have a boyfriend. I had accepted that I wouldn't have kids. Got married at 40 and she was a total surprise at 42. Life is weird. Vanilla cupcake mom. I'm the opposite, kind of. Got married right after college. He deployed right away. I wanted married time. Just us. I looked up and, yeah, I was 35. We had one. It was great. And it just didn't make financial sense to have more than one. Strawberry cupcake mom, and you guys are both doctors. Sometimes I kick myself for my not being more prudent and planning for a family, but if you guys can't swing it, I feel a little better. Stories number 31. Not a neighbor demanded free snow removal. My preschool-age son and I were walking home from a playground park one fine summer day. As we turned onto our street, a large man picture about 1-3 Jabba the Hutt, in his early 50s, beckoned us to cross the street. He was seated on a covered patio, about 5 feet above street level. We crossed over. This was on my street, a block away, about 10 doors down, and on the opposite side from mine. The moment we stepped onto the sidewalk, without introducing himself, and without so much as a hello, he said the following, not quite word for word. "Tell me why you don't ever clean the snow off my sidewalk," his demeanor screamed, stern boss calling out a slacker vibes. Did he mistake me for some no-show he'd hired last winter? Had my wife volunteered me to help this guy but forgot to tell me? That was months ago. The rest of the conversation went approximately something like this. Me. Huh? Jabba, I seen you clearing snow with a snowblower. It was almost an accusation. Me. Well, yes, Jabba. And every time you waste hours clearing part of the street, so we can park our C. Jabba, you have a snowblower. This is easy. You spend all that time on your corner, you clear the in-street, you should snowblow your way to my place and get my short little walk in no time. Me. It's more work than you think by the time I finish my property. I'm tired, Jabba liar. I seen you. You clean off the walk next to you. That's longer than mine. Me. They're a disabled couple in their 80s. Through can't move heavy snow. They live next door. It's 20 feet. I do it to be nice, Jabba. Then be nice to me. I can't lift heavy snow, but you don't care about me. If I want to go out, I have to wait until my sons get here to shovel me out and clean off my car. Me? Your sons? Sorry, sir, I'm not going to clear your snow. Have a good day. As we start walking away, he plays what he thinks is his last resort. And this is exactly what he said. Jabba, I could pay you, edit, since this wasn't clear. The conversation occurred in the summer. He was upset because all through the previous winter, I hadn't spontaneously plowed my way across the street and 10 doors down to clear his sidewalk whenever it snowed. Yes, he harangued me for not serving him unbidden last winter, while also arguing I should start doing so henceforth and without charge. Stories number 32. I work in a mid-sized company that's been around forever. Think one of those places where the building still has that faint smell of old carpet and coffee that's been brewing since the 90s. Our department handles customer support for a bunch of internal and external stuff. Phone calls from pissed-off clients, emails that range from, "help my printer's jammed," to, "our entire system is down." Tickets in this clunky internal portal that nobody outside our team really understands. And even these automated print jobs that spit out reports or forms that we have to process and file. It's not glamorous, but it's steady work. And for the last 30 years or so, it's run like a well-oiled machine. Let me paint the picture of how things used to be. Our team is small, about 8 of us, including me. There's Dave, the old-timer who's been here since dinosaurs roamed the earth and knows every workaround in the system. Sarah, the quick-witted one, who can diffuse any angry caller with a joke. Mike, who's obsessed with his fantasy football league and somehow multitasks like a pro. And then there's me, just your average Joe trying to pay the bills without losing my mind. Our manager, let's call him Tom, is one of those rare bosses who actually trusts his team. No micromanaging, no endless meetings about metrics. We had this unspoken rule: help where needed. If the phones were blowing up, we'd all jump on them. If emails were piling up, someone would dive in. Tickets, we'd rotate through them during quieter times. And those print jobs, they'd get handled in between, no big deal. It was chill, efficient, and we rarely had complaints. Hell, we'd even grab lunch together sometimes and laugh about the weirder calls we'd gotten that week. But then, a few months ago, everything changed. Enter Karen, not her real name, but it fits. Karen had been a co-worker for about a year, nothing special in terms of performance. She was okay at her job, but let's be real. She got promoted to supervisor because she's besties with Tom. Rumor has it she gives him relationship advice on the side, like they'd go for lunch meetings that lasted way too long, and suddenly she's whispering in his ear about how to handle his divorce or whatever. The rest of us, we busted our asses day in and day out, but nepotism gonna nepotism, right? So, Karen struts in on her first day as supervisor like she's got a clipboard and a mission from God. She's got this fake smile plastered on. And she calls a team meeting, our first in months. "All right, team," she says, clapping her hands like we're kindergarteners. "I've been looking over things, and I think we can tighten up a bit. Increase accountability, you know? Make sure everyone's pulling their weight." We all exchange glances. Pulling our weight? We've been keeping this ship afloat without a hitch. But okay, new boss, new rules, she goes on. "From now on, I'll be tracking phone calls for performance metrics. That's going to be our key indicator. Make sure everyone's doing their job and no one's slacking off." Dave raises his hand first. What about the tickets and emails? Those take up most of our time. Some tickets can drag on for hours if it's a complex issue. Karen waves it off like it's no biggie. Well, there's no easy way to measure those right now. The portal doesn't have great reporting, and emails are just emails. We can't really track that effectively. So focus on the phones. That's what matters, Sarah chimes in. But if we're all glued to the phones, who's handling the backlog on the other stuff? Prioritize, Karen says with that condescending tone. Phones are immediate, the rest can wait a bit. Okay? We all nod, but inside we're thinking, this is gonna be a disaster. The thing is, our workflow was built on balance before Karen. If a ticket came in that needed deep focus, like troubleshooting a software glitch for a satellite office, you'd log out of the phone queue temporarily. Same for emails that required research or attachments. It made sense. But now, why would I log out of phones if that's the only thing being tracked? It'd look like I'm slacking, right? The next day we start complying. Maliciously sure, but complying nonetheless. Phone rings. Boom. Answered on the first ring. I'm in the middle of drafting a detailed email response to a client about their billing issue. Pause it. Pick up the call. Mike's knee-deep in a ticket for a remote worker whose VPN is acting up. Nope. Phone's ringing. Handle that first. Sarah's sorting through a stack of printed reports that need to be scanned and archived. Put 'em down. Call her online too. At first, it's almost fun. We're like a pack of overeager puppies jumping at every ring. Hello, this is company support. How can I help? Over and over our phone stats? Through the roof. Karen's probably high-fiving herself in her office, thinking she's a genius. But reality hits quick by lunchtime on day one. The shared email inbox has like 20 unread messages. Double the usual tickets? The portal's dashboard is lighting up red with unresolved ones. And the printer? Oh man, that thing's chugging away. Spitting out paper like it's got a vendetta, reports, forms, automated alerts. They're piling up on the tray, overflowing onto the floor. Nobody's touching them because, hey, phones first. Day 2 rolls around. And the cracks start showing. I get a call from Jenny in accounting, internal, but still a phone call, so it counts. Hey, I sent an email yesterday about that invoice discrepancy. Haven't heard back. You guys okay? I keep it professional. We're focusing on phones right now. As per our supervisor, emails might be a bit delayed. She sounds confused. Okay. But I need this sorted by end of day. Noted, I say, and hang up. Next call. An external customer who's been waiting on a ticket for their order status. I submitted a ticket 2 days ago. Nothing. What's going on? Again, we're prioritizing phone support. If you call in, we can help right away. By afternoon, the complaints are rolling in. Emails from satellite offices. Hey team, our printer queue is backed up. Nobody's processing the jobs? One guy from the warehouse even drives over, yeah, in person, to bang on our door. Yo, I emailed about the inventory report. It's been sitting there. Why no response? Dave, ever the straight shooter, tells him, supervisor's orders, phones are what matter. Everything else is secondary. The guy's face turns red. Well, tell your supervisor we're drowning over here without those reports. We just shrug. Not our problem anymore. Meanwhile, the printer's become a monster. Papers are everywhere, scattered on desks, the floor, even wedged under chairs. Mike tries to stack them neatly at one point, but a call comes in, and he drops everything. Literally day 3, chaos-level expert, the boss, Tom, starts getting looped in. I overhear Karen on a call with him. No, everything's fine. Phone metrics are up 30%, but then the emails to Tom start flooding his inbox. From HR, support isn't responding to our policy update requests. From sales, clients are pissed, tickets unresolved. External customers are calling in more, but now it's to complain about the lack of follow-up on other channels. One memorable call, an old lady who's been a client forever. I emailed about my account, dear. No reply. Is everyone on vacation? Sorry, ma'am. We're focused on phones. Well, that's silly. What about my email? You could call back with details, I suggest. Knowing it'll just loop, she huffs and hangs up. By day 4, the portal is a graveyard of tickets. Red alerts everywhere. Management, higher-ups who don't know how to run reports on it, finally notice because other departments are screaming. One exec emails the whole company. Is support down? No responses to critical tickets. We forward it to Karen with a note. Phones are handled. This is emails, tickets. She doesn't reply. Then, the meeting happens. I see Karen get summoned to Tom's office. She's in there for like an hour, longer than her usual advice sessions. When she comes out, her face is thunder, lips pursed, eyes narrowed. She slams her door, then pings us on Teams. Please remember that all work types are important, not just phone calls. Balance your tasks accordingly, and poof, just like that. The tracking vanishes. No more mentions of metrics. We go back to the old way. Logging out for tickets, batching emails, clearing the printer between calls. The backlog clears in a day or two. And peace returns. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for the awards. To clarify for those asking about workflow, before, we'd toggle off the phone queue for focused work on tickets, emails. It didn't hurt our stats because there were no stats. Now with tracking, why risk looking lazy? Malicious compliance at its finest. Edit 2. Some of you are asking if Karen's still around. Yep, but she's quieter now. Tom probably reamed her. No more tightening up. Edit 3. For the doubters, yes, this is real. Happens in offices everywhere. Bureaucracy meets common sense. Now let me dive deeper into how this all started. Because context matters, our company isn't some tech giant. It's a regional firm dealing in logistics and supply chain stuff. Think trucks, warehouses, inventory tracking, that kind of thing. Our support team is the glue holding it together. Without us, shipments delay, bills go unpaid, and chaos ensues. I joined about 5 years ago, fresh out of college with a degree in communications that I thought would lead to something cooler. Nope. Ended up here answering calls about why someone's pallet of widgets is late. But it grew on me. The team's solid. Pays decent, and until Karen, no drama. Karen, though. Let's talk about her backstory. She started as a temp, I think, pretty, chatty, always laughing at Tom's lame jokes. Rumors flew early. She's flirting her way up. But hey, office gossip. Then Tom's marriage hits the rocks. Wife leaves. Messy divorce. Suddenly, Karen's his confidant, lunch dates, after-work meetings. Next thing, promotion announced in a company email. Excited to have Karen leading support. We tried to be welcoming. Brought donuts her first day, but she had ideas, big ones. Her first week was all observation. She'd hover over shoulders, asking questions like, "Why are you off the phones?" When I'd explain, working a ticket needs research, she'd nod but jot notes. We knew trouble was brewing. The meeting where she dropped the bomb was in our break room. Cramped. With that microwave that always smells like burnt popcorn. She had a PowerPoint, a freaking PowerPoint for 8 people. Slide 1, current state, phones, 60% of interactions. Emails, 20%, tickets, 15%, prints, 5%. Where'd you get those numbers? Mike asked. I estimated, she said. But phones are key. Immediate customer satisfaction. Then slide 2. New metrics, track calls per hour, goal, 10 plus. We balked. But quality over quantity, Sarah said. Both, Karen insisted. That's when the questions flew. What about everything else? Her answer sealed it. Untrackable, so secondary. We didn't argue. Just complied. Let me walk you through a typical day under the regime. 8 a.m., log in, phones on, ring, answer. It's a quick one. Password reset, done in 2 minutes. Back to, wait. No emails, phone again, complaint about delivery. 5 minutes meanwhile, email notification pings. Ignore. Phone's priority, AM. Printer starts humming. Stack of inventory reports, I glance. Phone rings, answer. Internal query from marketing while talking, another email. Urgent ticket from a vendor, 10 a.m. break. Ha, phones don't stop. Dave's handling a long call, I'm on another. Tickets now at 15 unresolved. Usually we cap at 5, noon lunch, but calls queue up. We eat at desks, answering between bites. 1 p.m., first complaint call. My email from yesterday? Phones first. By 3 p.m., printer overflow, papers everywhere. Mike kicks a stack accidentally. Avalanche, PM, warehouse guy shows up, yells. We point to Karen's office. PM, log out, exhausted, but satisfied. Phone stats? Gold, day 2, more of the same, amplified. Emails at 50 unread. Tickets, 30. Printer, fire hazard, complaints escalate. Jenny from accounting calls again. This is ridiculous. Tom gets involved indirectly. His assistant emails us, unread of course, day 3. External meltdown. A big client calls. Tickets submitted Monday, nothing. We repeat the mantra. Karen starts sweating. She pops out. Hey, maybe check emails too? But no official change. We stick to policy. The meeting. I wasn't in it. But Dave overheard snippets. Tom. What the hell's going on? Complaints everywhere, Karen. But phones are up. Tom. Phones aren't everything. Post-meeting message. Backpedal city. Now things are normal. Karen avoids eye contact. Lesson learned? Probably not. But for now, victory. To expand on the characters. Dave's the veteran. 25 years in, knows the portal inside out. He taught me everything. During the compliance, he was the most gleeful. Let's see how she likes this, he'd mutter. Sarah, mom of two, sharp as a tack, her jokes kept morale up. Phones only? Fine, I'll be the world's best receptionist. Mike, young, energetic, fantasy football champ. He tracked his own stats for fun. Calls verse, ignored emails. Me? I just wanted to do my job without BS. The satellite offices suffered most, one in Chicago, far from HQ. They rely on tickets for tech issues. During the mess, their manager called Tom directly. Support's broken. Externals. One vendor threatened to pull business. That probably tipped it. The printer saga. It's an old HP beast. Prints auto reports every hour. Normally we process them quick, but ignored. By day 4, we had a tower taller than me, clean up post policy. Took hours. We laughed about it over beers after work. If Karen reads this, hey, learn from it. Trust your team. Edit 4, AMA in comments, yes. Tom's still single. No, Karen didn't get demoted. This story reminds me of similar ones I've read on here. Like that time a boss insisted on clocking every minute. And productivity tanked. Classic. Anyway. Thanks for reading, moral. Don't fix what ain't broken. Let me tell you about the day the warehouse guy came down. His name's Frank. Big dude, tattoos. Always smells like forklift exhaust. He bursts in, red-faced, holding a crumpled email printout. What the fuck is this? I sent this 2 days ago. I'm on a call, so I hold up a finger. Finish. Yes, ma'am. Your order's shipped. Hang up. Can I help? Yeah, by doing your job. No one's processed my inventory request. We're out of space because of it, Dave. From his desk, phones are priority, man. Supervisor's orders. Frank glares. Well, tell your supervisor to get her head out her ass. He storms to Karen's office. Knocks hard. She peeks out. Yes? They argue in hushed tones. He leaves fuming. She looks rattled. Later, she emails, please try to balance. But no. We wait for official word. Another incident. The old lady caller. Mrs. Henderson, loyal customer for 10 years. Her email was about a billing error. $50 overcharge, simple fix, but ignored. She calls, young man, I've been waiting. Is the company going under? No, ma'am. Focusing on phones. Well, focus on this. Fix my bill or I take my business elsewhere, I note it. But since it's a call, I actually handle it right then. Irony, tickets were the worst. One from IT, server down in branch office. Ignored for days. Branch calls Tom, we're offline. That was a big one. Emails from HR, policy changes needing acknowledgement. Unread. HR head emails Tom. The pile-up led to funny moments. Sarah slipped on printer papers once. Ow. Workers' comp for malicious compliance. We joked about starting a paper fort, post-resolution. Team morale boosted. We even had a phone day party. Donuts with phone toppers. Karen's changed. More hands-off. Maybe she learned. Or maybe Tom's advice sessions include how to manage, either way. Win. To really flesh this out, let's go back to my first day on the job. 5 years ago. Nervous as hell. Dave took me under his wing. Kid, forget the manual. Here's how we really do it. He showed me the queue toggle. Off for tickets, on for calls, balance is key, that system. Gold, 30 years, no issues, why change? Karen's ego, I guess. Her promotion party was awkward, Tom toasted. To Karen? My right hand, we clapped politely. First sign of trouble. She rearranged desks for efficiency, moved the printer farther, making it harder to grab papers quickly. Then the metrics. During compliance, I kept a personal log. Day 1, 15 calls, 10 emails ignored, 5 tickets pending. Day 2, 20 calls, 25 emails, 15 tickets exponential. The meeting details from what Karen let slip later. Tom slammed reports on her desk. Look at this. Complaints from every department. But metrics aren't the whole picture. She emerged defeated. Team's message, surrender. Now we're back. But watchful. If this happens again, we'll comply harder. Edit 5 similar stories? Share below, amidst the chaos. Sarah and Mike had a thing going, flirting over calls. Hey, pause that ticket. Phone's ringing. They'd laugh. But the policy stressed everyone. Mike snapped at Sarah once. Why'd you take that call? I was on it. Trying to boost metrics, she said. They made up after. Dave nearly retired. I'm too old for this crap. We convinced him to stay. Tom and Karen? Tension now? No more long lunches? One time, post-policy, Karen tried a team-building exercise. Bowling, awkward as hell. I bowled a strike, said, like answering phones, direct hit. She didn't laugh. External customer stories. One guy, Mr. Patel, called daily. Ticket update? Phones first, he emailed Tom eventually. That helped tip it, printer details. It's a HP LaserJet 4000. Ancient. Jams often. During pileup it jammed. Papers everywhere. We left it because phones, facilities guy came. Fire hazard, tell Karen, he did. All contributed to the downfall, part 2. The aftermath and reflections after the policy vanished. Things didn't snap back immediately. The backlog was massive. We spent the next week digging out. Overtime. Paid, thankfully. I remember staying late one night with Dave. Kid, that was some BS. Yeah, think she'll try again? Nah, Tom's got her number. We sorted tickets till 8 p.m. Pizza on the company card. Sarah organized a survivor party the following Friday. Beers at a local bar. To malicious compliance, we toasted. Mike proposed a toast. To phones. And everything else. Laughter. Karen wasn't invited, reflecting. This highlights bad management, promoting friends over merit. Recipe for disaster. In our case, it backfired spectacularly. Lessons, trust teams, measure wisely. Don't ignore the big picture. If you're a supervisor reading this, take note. If you're an employee, comply but make it hurt. End of story. Not quite. A month later, Karen announced new balanced metrics. But it's optional. And we ignore it. Status quo, edit 6, TLDR. New sup focuses on phones only. We do, other work piles up, chaos, policy reversed. Stories number 33. My roommate torched my pizza. So I returned the favor. So, this happened a few years back when I was grinding through a career pivot. I'd decided to go back to school to escape a dead-end job. But money was tight as hell. Think ramen and instant coffee tight. To save cash, I moved into this cheap-ass student apartment in the basement of an old, creaky building on the edge of campus. Picture a dimly lit hallway with peeling paint, 5 locked bedroom doors, and a shared kitchen and bathroom setup that screamed budget living. Each of us had our own room, but we shared the grimy kitchen with its ancient appliances and a bathroom that always smelled faintly of mildew. Nobody really talked to each other, just the occasional yo. E-transfer the internet bill text in the group chat. It was less friends and more strangers forced to coexist. I was juggling classes and a part-time gig at a coffee shop, so my days were long. One night, I dragged myself home around 10 p.m., starving and beat. I'd been dreaming about food all day, and I decided to treat myself to a frozen pizza. A legit splurge when your budget's screaming beans on toast. This wasn't just any pizza. It was one of those fancy-ish ones with extra cheese and pepperoni. The kind you save for a rough day. I checked the box. $3.75 to go for 25 minutes. Perfect. I preheated the oven, slid the pizza in, set a timer on my phone, and shuffled back to my room to scroll Reddit and decompress. About 15 minutes in, I heard the oven door creak open. That thing was so old, it groaned like a haunted house prop. A few seconds later, I heard a bedroom door slam shut down the hall, curious. I poked my head out and wandered to the kitchen. Someone, let's call him Jake, had shoved a massive tray of raw chicken breasts in the oven next to my pizza. No note, no heads up, just his chicken invading my oven space. I figured whatever, there's room for both, right? I didn't think much of it and went back to my room to wait out the timer. When my phone buzzed, I practically sprinted to the kitchen. Mouth watering, I opened the oven and my heart sank. My beautiful pizza was a charred disaster. Crust black in spots, cheese looking like it had been through a nuclear meltdown. I checked the oven dial, and that's when I saw it, 425 degrees. Jake had cranked the temperature without saying a damn word. Who does that? You're sharing a kitchen. You don't just mess with someone else's cook settings like you're Gordon Ramsay. I stood there staring at my ruined dinner, fuming. This pizza was my one treat for the week. And now it was barely edible. I tried to salvage it, scraped off the worst of the burnt cheese, cut away the blackened edges, took a bite, tasted like regret and ash. I sat at the wobbly kitchen table, chewing this sad excuse for food, and had a full-on existential crisis. Like, here I am, 26, broke, living in a basement with strangers, eating a burnt $8 pizza because I can't afford better. Life was kicking my ass, then the rage hit. I'm not proud of it, but I was pissed. Jake didn't just ruin my dinner, he didn't even have the decency to give a heads up. So, I decided to match his energy. I stomped back to the kitchen, checked the oven. His chicken was still in there. Probably halfway done, I cranked the dial to 500 degree F, maxing it out. Then I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, waiting for the chaos to unfold. It didn't take long, maybe 10 minutes later. The smoke alarm started screeching, the kitchen filled with this acrid, Burnt meat smell. I heard Jake's door fly open, followed by heavy footsteps and a string of curses. "What the hell?" he yelled, fumbling with the oven. I stepped into the hallway, keeping it casual but with a slight edge in my voice. "Everything all good, bud?" He was standing there, red-faced, trying to scrape his charred chicken off the tray. The breasts were black as coal, stuck to the pan like they'd been welded. Yeah, fine," he stammered, clearly embarrassed. I didn't say anything else, just gave him a long look, went back to my room, and choked down the rest of my garbage pizza. The next morning, I saw the aftermath. The kitchen smelled like a barbecue gone wrong, and Jake's tray was still in the sink, covered in burnt gunk. He didn't say a word to me, and I didn't bring it up. What was there to say? "Don't torch my food, I won't torch yours." I moved out a month later, found a slightly less depressing place closer to campus, never saw Jake again. But I hope he learned to check with his roommates before messing with the oven. Screw your chicken, dude. My roommate torched my pizza. So I returned the favor. This happened a few years back when I was grinding through a career pivot. I decided to go back to school to escape a dead-end job in retail that was sucking the life out of me. Endless shifts on my feet, dealing with entitled customers who thought the world revolved around their expired coupons. But going back to school meant student loans, textbooks that cost more than my rent, and scraping by on whatever I could. Money was tight as hell. Think ramen and instant coffee tight, with the occasional splurge on off-brand cereal if I was feeling fancy, to save every penny. I moved into this cheap-ass student apartment in the basement of an old, creaky building on the edge of campus in Seattle. Picture a dimly lit hallway with peeling wallpaper that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. 5 locked bedroom doors that felt more like prison cells than homes. And a shared kitchen and bathroom setup that screamed budget living at its finest. The kitchen had this ancient stove with burners that took forever to heat up, a fridge that hummed like a dying engine, and cabinets stocked with mismatched plates from who knows where. The bathroom always smelled faintly of mildew and cheap body wash, with a shower that alternated between scalding hot and ice cold without warning. Each of us had our own room. Mine was a tiny box with a twin bed, a rickety desk, and a window that looked out onto the building's dumpster. But hey, it was $400 a month, utilities included, so I wasn't complaining too much. We were a motley crew of roommates, all in our mid-20s, chasing degrees in different fields. There was Emily, the quiet nursing student who was always buried in flashcards and smelled like hospital sanitizer. Ryan, the engineering major who blasted heavy metal at odd hours and left his tools scattered everywhere. Lisa, the art history buff who painted abstract crap on the walls of her room, which we could hear through the thin doors. And then Jake, the guy this story's really about. Jake was a business major, tall and lanky with that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, always wearing hoodies from some frat he probably rushed but didn't get into. He seemed like your typical bro, gym-obsessed, meal prepping chicken breasts every Sunday like clockwork, and not big on conversation. Nobody really talked to each other beyond the occasional "yo," transfer the internet bill text in the group chat or a grunt in passing. It was less Friends sitcom vibes and more strangers forced to coexist in a dimly lit hellhole reality. We'd nod at each other in the kitchen, maybe exchange a sup if we were feeling social, but that was it. No game nights, no shared meals, just survival mode. I was juggling a full course load in computer science, coding classes that fried my brain, and a part-time gig at a local coffee shop, slinging lattes to caffeine-addicted undergrads until closing time. My days were marathons. Wake up at 7 a.m. for lectures, study in the library during breaks, work from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., then stumble home exhausted. One particularly brutal night, I dragged myself through the door around 10 p.m., my backpack weighing a ton from unread textbooks, my stomach growling like a bear. I'd been dreaming about food all day, skipping lunch to cram for a midterm, and I decided to treat myself to a frozen pizza. This wasn't just any pizza. It was one of those fancy-ish ones with extra cheese, pepperoni, and a stuffed crust that I'd snagged on sale at the grocery store. A legit splurge when your weekly food budget is $30 and you're debating between eggs or peanut butter. I checked the box instructions like a ritual. Preheat to 375-degree Fahrenheit, bake for 25 minutes. Perfect. I cranked the oven, slid the pizza onto the rack, set a timer on my phone, and shuffled back to my room to scroll Reddit. Maybe watch a quick YouTube video on algorithms to unwind. My room was my sanctuary. Posters of old video games on the walls, a second-hand lamp casting a warm glow, and my laptop humming on the desk. About 15 minutes in, I heard the oven door creak open. That thing was so old. It groaned like a haunted house prop every time someone touched it. Echoing down the hall, a few seconds later, I heard a bedroom door slam shut. Probably Jake's, since his was closest to the kitchen. Curious, but too tired to care much, I poked my head out and wandered over. Sure enough, someone had shoved a massive tray of raw chicken breasts in the oven right next to my pizza. It was Jake's signature meal prep setup, 6 or 7 plain, seasoning-less chicken breasts on a foil-lined baking sheet, looking as bland as his personality. No note on the counter, no knock on my door to say, "Hey, mind if I share the oven?" Just his chicken invading my cooking space like it owned the place, I figured. Whatever. There's room for both as long as the temp stays the same, right? Sharing is caring and communal living. I didn't think much more of it and headed back to my room, counting down the minutes until pizza time.